I'd like to call a meeting to order. Are there any citizens' concerns that are not on the agenda? Jack?
Oh, I don't know if this is on the agenda, but the vote to eliminate the SRO had a very problematic impact on our town budget.
I'm sorry, I don't know who you are.
Oh, John Spanbauer from the Northfield Select Board.
Okay.
The way the line item carried for fiscal year 18 for the SRO was $28,000. That figure was arrived at by negotiations between the chief and the school administration that the school district would pay 50% of the school resource officer's salary, and we would provide an officer from the Northfield staff. So that's how the $28,000 came to be. So with your vote to eliminate that position throws our police department budget into chaos. Are we going to have to lay people off? Full-timers, part-timers? It may sound like a small amount, but 20 hours of full-time officer a week for a small police department really is problematic to make that up. And I'm not sure what we're going to do. And the chief doesn't know what to do either. But I also want to say the school district is billed for 50% of the officer's time. You get a completely trained professional officer. But in fact, if you visited the school at any time, he's there full time. 80% of his hours are dedicated to the school, and the school is only paying 50% of his compensation. The school is paying no benefits, they're paying no overtime, and for $28,000, I don't think you're going to get another professionally trained school resource officer anywhere full time. But the point of this is, we were very surprised without any consultation with the partners in developing his compensation that you were eliminating the position, and now we're not sure what we're going to do with our town budget regarding police. So we're disappointed there was no consultation, but it is what it is. Thank you.
Jack, this will be discussed under old business in a few minutes, so we'll expand on it at that point. Is there anything else that needs?
Will we be allowed to speak when certain issues come up, or we're not going to be allowed to speak?
You know, I tried not having people speak, and it just doesn't seem fair with our communities. I think people need to have input. What I would ask, though, is to make it like in a 3 or 4 minute rather than a 15-minute, because I think otherwise we're going to be here till midnight. But I think it's important to let people talk, and I think the committee feels the same way.
Okay, thank you.
Am I right or not? Jeannie?
Pat, my only request would be if a citizen has made a comment that is the same thing I would be thinking, that I would not then speak in order to give everybody, every item, a fair chance to be addressed.
Totally understandable. Sure.
And to keep the discussion at minimum, not to repeat yourself, but just keep the discussion at a minimum. But you need to be heard, but don't like monopolize the floor or something like that.
Is there anything else that is not going to be discussed? If I'm not seeing hands over there, it's not because I'm not trying to see you, but there's a little bit of a problem with me not seeing everybody, so yell if I don't see you. Under the good and welfare, is there anything the committee has to say? I asked for that item to be near the end of our budget, of our agenda, and the rationale behind that was sometimes during our discussions of the meeting, something comes up, and I think that if that was at the nearer the end, that we would have maybe more things that we would like to, as a committee, discuss. And that did not happen. No, I think it's not in here.
So this, when you first had this item come on the table, it was more, and you were gonna try it. You said we'll try it for a couple
Right,
times. And
right.
it was an opportunity for committee members,
Right.
more than the public, to
Right.
say something positive.
Right.
I don't see why you wouldn't keep that there. And remember, I had suggested maybe you wanted to put a public comment at the end as well as at the beginning?
I guess, I mean, I went through what the chairman's job is, and one of them was to plan the agenda, and I asked if that go on with that rationale. Now, if somebody wants to give an idea of having something else, or I'm open for it. Okay.
Well, I kind of hate to have a school committee member steal one of our student reps' thunder if it was something that he was, or she were going to address at the beginning of the meeting. I
Right.
mean, if it hasn't been covered, then maybe at the end we could say, oh, by the way, also this,
Right.
but.
I mean, it doesn't have to be negative, it can be
No.
definitely
No,
positive.
I'm thinking
and
it's
it's-
to encourage positive.
But I think it needs to go to the end, as you said, not to steal the thunder of the kids or something else comes up that we need to
Administrators,
discuss.
yeah.
Exactly.
So after other business at the end?
Or as other business. I mean, before other business or after, I don't think it makes any difference. I just think it would be better near the end than at the beginning.
Yeah, it could be just other business. I mean, I don't understand what the difference between good and healthy and other business.
Me neither.
Can't hear you.
I can't see what the difference between good and welfare and other business is. You know, so if it was just under other business of the last item.
I can't recall, but I believe there was a specific,
I think David, can't speak for him, but I believe what he wanted to have is the rest of the school committee members be voicing whatever it is their concern was.
Right, exactly.
So whether it be a positive thing
Or
or voice something that was happening.
and that's what the
Um,
good.
That could go under other
Yes.
business.
Well,
It
I think.
was to give us a chance to talk, seeing how,
So let's add it, before or after other business? After?
Then you can
After
always
other
discuss
business?
something that happened under other business.
Okay,
Will that,
after other business.
will that begin today or at our next meeting?
What do you want?
My recommendation is next week.
Okay,
Personally.
even though it was requested to happen this meeting, twice.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, that's okay.
today
That's all
it
right.
was requested?
A couple days ago and a couple
Oh.
days before that.
Oh, are those people here tonight?
So, so is there anything under good and welfare that we'd like to discuss tonight? Last chance. Okay. Minutes of the last meeting, I believe, were circulated somewhere. Has everyone had a chance to look them over, or do we need to have a minute? Sharon, I mean, so,
We're just wondering about, was there an August meeting also?
There was a meeting August 9th. I wasn't able to attend that one, so someone else did the notes.
So we, unfortunately, there were some questions for David on the notes because it was referenced for him a couple of times, and given that he was not able to review them, there were like some big spots that we weren't sure of. So that's why we didn't want to bring incomplete minutes. Somebody that wasn't used to taking the minutes took them. So that's why they're not here. We just needed some input on quite a few statements, I guess.
Because in that meeting, we talked a lot about these minutes, and I don't remember exactly what we talked about, so I'm just.
Well, we can just look these over and put off the approval of them until the next meeting, if that's something people want to do. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't see the August 9th minutes.
They're not
We
here.
don't have
They're
them,
not,
so
no.
that's a moot point, whether we're gonna.
Right.
Yeah,
review
why
that.
don't we wait and do them next time?
But we can do the July 13th.
Oh, what I just,
I just wanted to make a comment on page 1 of the minutes, under community comments, second paragraph, Paul Markin. I don't know if he's in the room, but I believe what I heard him say was that he was not pleased to see the level of discourse. I don't think he was pleased to see the level of discourse.
I wouldn't see why he would be here.
First page.
It was Sue's suggestion not to vote on these because the meeting of August comment there were some questions on these. So if it's on the August 9th,
I thought, Sue, that on the August 9th meeting, we reviewed all of these minutes, and this is the correction.
oh, okay.
I
This
did
is
not,
the-
I didn't make any corrections to the minutes.
So this is the
So
same thing we
These are the
received
ones,
before?
I think these are the ones I submitted. I did not make any changes to them.
Okay, then,
Yeah, and I
then in
can't
that
remember
case,
that.
because there are a lot of things in this one. Pat, do you recall, we
we questioned something.
we questioned and we adjusted and we clarified a
Okay.
lot of things in this one.
So we're gonna table these?
Yeah.
So,
Is that the-
yeah, let's table these until the next meeting, and then we'll have
Okay.
3 meetings that we'll have to check over.
And maybe, when the minutes of August 9th are finished, you could send them to me so that I could make whatever corrections I could request.
That would be great.
Okay.
And then at the same time, as you send them to Ian, could you send them to the committee, and then they'd have a chance to review them, so that we're not spinning our wheels?
Yeah. And we can send the other ones as soon as we get those
Right.
2 things.
Yeah,
That's
that would be
fine.
great. Somebody out there had their hand raised at some point, and yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to say that Paul Markham is not the gentleman's name, his name is Paul Bacco. So Markham should be changed to B-O-C-K-O.
B-A-C-K.
Oh,
C-K-O.
thank you.
That could be one of the issues.
Yes, that could definitely be. Let's hope there's not more like that. That's much better to get corrected. Thank you. Okay, we have revenue reports, which is on the yellow. And then if we're looking, we have expenditure and accounts payable. On yellow and green, purple. Do you want to lead us through the revenue sheet?
The revenue sheets, do you have the revenue sheet? There we go. This is just the beginning of the FY18 school year, so you'll see that we received some Chapter 70, some charter school reimbursement, and then you'll also see down at the bottom our balances from our cash balances, and that we were cash flow was really difficult at the last month, and Bernardston was very helpful in sending us their assessment early so that we would be able to make payroll. At this time, we don't need to go out and actually get a revenue anticipation note, which has taken place the last couple of years. I think last year it was $1.2 million. And we're thinking that we're getting us in a position where we can do something less, maybe $750,000 revenue anticipation, instead of taking out that very large loan. But we'll have a better idea about that next month, when things all get kind of boiled down.
So do we know that these are finalized revenue numbers
What do you mean
Like
finalized?
from the state.
from the state.
Yes, those were from the state.
So the last, I mean, I don't have dates on them, so I have trouble
Would that-
figuring out which one came first, but I thought we had reduced the anticipated transportation reimbursement down to 65% as of June 28th.
Were you looking at FY17?
No, the estimated FY18 state aid transportation reimbursement.
FY18, what's the date on it?
June something.
These are very
This is-
recent documents.
Yes, Sue.
This is the one I got on June 28th. So I started dating them because
Yeah.
they don't have a date on them, yeah. And
Can you
the-
just walk us through what was anticipated and what we finally got and what was different or the same?
Okay, so this report's done by the treasurer. Okay, so what she does is she goes into the state system, and they actually, there's a place where you can go and you can actually get what has been received. So these were the numbers that she said has been received.
So under budget?
Under
That
budget.
whole line is generated by the treasurer from a state online report?
She takes that, she creates this
Right.
report,
So
yes.
the row that says budget, she goes online and finds all those numbers.
Well, or she uses the numbers that, she can't find, well, she could find these all online. But then she would also potentially get them from the meetings, the budget meetings, and the information that is given to her. She's new, and it's, this has been a challenge.
Okay, I guess my point is, it was such a moving target for a long time.
Mhm.
And now that you're saying that these numbers are solid, I think what Peggy's trying to get at is, we had a lot of estimates and
Right.
projections. Where did we land in relation to our estimates and projections?
So if this was the bottom line budgeted number, then that would be what she's working on. I don't think she would change these from budgeted, but Peggy's saying there's a different number there?
Yeah, the
Because we didn't
transportation.
know what the numbers were gonna be for a long time.
Right, but at
So-
some point, we have to say, here's the budget, this is our estimates. And so at the end of the year, like next month, you're gonna see the end of last year. You're gonna see this, what was budgeted, what was anticipated, what we actually got. So this shifts. And so you'll see the budgeted number, and then this received is gonna be the actual, and then you'll see the balance discrepancies. There could be some that are over and some that are
So these
under.
are not actually solid, they could change still.
Yeah,
The
there's
numbers
always,
in this.
yes, there's always moving targets. So when you see next month, you're gonna see that some of the estimates were off and we are way under, and others that were over. And so hopefully where we hit at the bottom line is that our revenues are close to what we thought.
Okay, so you're saying that when we see a revenue support next month, those numbers will be solid?
These ones here, the middle column will be what was actually received.
I know.
Received
I'm
for-
still trying to clarify.
For last fiscal year.
These, but if you have a budget,
That's my question, is this FY 17 or 18?
this is FY18.
Says FY17.
She put FY,
No, it just says
Says
July
revenue
2017.
report for
July
July
17.
17.
This is FY
18.
FY18. This is what we projected. It may or may not come in
Okay,
where
so
we
these are
projected.
not solid, these are still our projected.
It's just
Projection,
Okay.
right. And so the ones that should be, when you get it every month,
Mhm.
the received column should be solid.
Well, I
Because
get
they-
that, that's not,
Well,
that's
sometimes-
whatever we got, you know,
Right.
but we're budgeting off of the projected numbers when we make our budget.
Correct.
So I'm just,
Everything's a best guess when you're budgeting. And at
Right,
some
but it-
point, you have to
yeah.
say,
But I mean, as of June 28th, we had a total of 13,900,000
As opposed to 14.
as
I
opposed to
think we're looking-
14,200.
But that's a new budget.
I think,
What
But
is
doesn't
new
the revenue
budget?
have to equal the expenses? 'Cause this number doesn't match this number. This is the budget.
no, but they don't always, They don't always match. It should,
It's pretty close.
right,
But
get close to it.
So we don't know
how
the
do
final state aid
we know what
numbers.
we have to spend?
You know what might be, you know what might be.
interrupt?
Yes, you may, Jess.
Budgeting process is a guessing game. You try to estimate to the best of your knowledge with the best input you can, what your income is going to be.
Right, and this.
And you are not going to know what those positive numbers are until 13 months from today, at least.
So when the state
It's an
does our
estimate.
state aid or our transportation reimbursement, there is not a date at which point they are required to say to us solidly, this is the amount we're getting. There is never a date at which
No,
we know that for
no,
sure.
because when they go in and make 9-seat cuts, because the state's losing money, they're never supposed to cut transportation. We have a lot of people lobbying to not have, but they went and cut transportation last
Well, I
year.
know that sometimes over the course of the year, the state cuts their budget. But what I'm asking is, at the start of the fiscal year, is there not a solid number that we work with?
No,
And you're saying no.
no, it's not.
So for
it's-
transportation and for state aid, those numbers could change.
Yeah, the likelihood of state aid changing is rare,
Mhm.
but it's not impossible,
Mhm.
because we don't control that money. The
Right.
state does.
Right. Mhm.
So that's not the right number.
I think
either.
it might be easier when you, next month, when you see FY17 final, and I think it might make it a little easier
Oh, I
for you to
understand the
understand.
process. I just was trying to clarify if at some point the number is solid.
No.
I don't think the numbers are ever solid.
Okay.
Until you, until you, you're right, until your Department of Revenue and you file your reports.
Won't we be obligated to make reductions to meet the most likely number soon? I mean,
In other words, you're saying, Peggy, if our state aid in chapter 70 money goes down $1 million, what are we going to do to make that work for us? Am I reading you right?
Well, but you had already asked us to, and the administrators all got together and we made reductions to the budget already because we got new information and we made more reductions. But I'm hopeful that, you know, especially on the expense side, that we can hold those numbers and have the money because we've already made so many cuts. It's nice that if we can at least just hit that number. We'll try, but that's why looking at the numbers every month makes sense, because you can get a sense of
Absolutely.
what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to the summary for the year.
Yeah, we're still working on that, but you'll have it next month.
As accurate as it can be.
Well, it's hopefully the end of the year report will be done and the information will be into the state, and if that's the case, then the numbers are going to be whatever they are.
Any other budget questions?
Correct.
Okay. So looking through these, the green and the purple and the yellow, if there's anything anybody sees, please call Ruth. And she will try to confuse us more than she has already, and not really, but.
And that's okay. It's messy.
So warrants have been circulated, I think they're down by Peggy, I'm not sure if she signed them all or not. When you're done, you can pass in this direction. So next on our agenda are the appearances by the Heart Committee. Sue, you as a member and Bill of the Heart Committee, one of you want to lead us through that? I don't care who.
So we have prepared, as a committee, to do a little presentation, so Heart Committee people come on. Okay. So I was appointed by the Warwick Select Board to the Heart Committee, let's sit together on the end here. Before I was a school committee member.
Are the rest of the members here?
I don't know how many are here.
Could you have them stand up maybe so we can, have them stand up?
Yeah, stand up or, yeah.
Yeah, stand up so we can see
You
who
guys
they
work
are.
hard. Yeah, you do. Okay, so stand up and let us
And be
know who you
counted.
are. I see Tony over there. You want to start at Tony and work around the room?
So we did send you bios today, so you'll have some sense of who we are also.
Okay, all right. Okay, Tony?
What time did those come?
tell
Late
us-
in the day, sorry. Yeah.
What?
Do you have a printout for some of us?
I do.
Introducing,
I
yeah.
have the printout.
Oh,
Fine.
thank you.
To,
Okay, I would like people to introduce themselves as far as who they are and from where they are and all of that, even though we've got the bios. And I asked Tony if he would head off the,
Tony Mateo from Northfield. I was appointed to the Art Committee by the Selectmen.
thanks.
I'm on the Finance Committee at Northfield.
And Bill Wallstrom, one of those from the board that also serves on the Heart Committee.
Okay.
I'm Jack Killeen from Bernardston. I was appointed by the Bernardston Selectmen.
I'm Rick Fontaine from Lyden. I was asked by the select board.
Tracy Rogers from the Northfield Select Board. Cheryl George, and I'm appointed by the Northfield Select Board.
I'm Ginger Robinson. I'm a member of the Lighting Finance Committee other than Lighting, and I was appointed by the Lighting Select Board.
And I'm Bob Keir, was appointed by the Bernardston Select Board.
Excellent. Is that, have I got anybody else hiding behind?
Michelle.
Michelle Russo. I'm chair of the Heart Committee, and I'm from the town of Leiden and chair of the Finance Committee.
All right, and we know Sue. Thank you, everybody. I think that having
Thank you
gone
for your
to,
time.
having gone to a couple of those meetings,
Yes.
I appreciate all your work.
Well, thank you for allowing us to be on the agenda tonight. I know you have a full agenda, so we're going to try and keep it pretty short. Some might not know who the Heart Committee is. The Heart stands for Honest Education in Retaining Trust Committee. We are a group, we are a diverse group of concerned citizens, and our bios were emailed to you, and one is going around.
I can't.
Pardon?
I can't keep it.
You can keep it. Yeah, I have a
No,
copy.
if other people haven't received it, I will share.
I'd just like to mention that what is not included in the bios are, we have had teacher representatives coming to our meetings. Teachers are always welcome. We want you to be a part of this committee, and anyone from the public is welcome. And we usually meet at the Bernardston Senior Center, and the meetings are all posted. We have a statement of purpose that I'm going to read to you. We've done a lot of work on this, but as we were, the reason the Heart Committee was formed was back in January, the Bernardston Board of Selectmen called a meeting of concerned citizens, educators, and town government members. At the time, the suggestion was that the district agreement that frames how the towns in the Pioneer District together manage the education of our children might need to be revisited to meet the district's current challenges. With declining enrollment and increased costs, continuing to finance the excellent education system we've built has become increasingly difficult. The Heart Committee came together in the hopes that with a diverse membership of educators, town officials, and concerned citizens, we could come up with some ideas and solutions. The committee has met bi-monthly since February and is guided by the following statement of purpose. The Heart Committee, I already said, honest education and retaining trust, serves as a bridge between the towns of Bernardston, Leiden, Northfield, and Warwick, and the Pioneer Valley Regional School District, with its primary purpose of recommending and advocating for changes that promote high-quality educational services for all students in a manner that is sustainable and affordable. These recommendations and changes may include, but are not limited to, the provisions of the district agreement. The Heart Committee is committed to reaching out and communicating with various stakeholders within the respective towns and working collaboratively to support, not supplant, the work of existing entities, such as the school committees, the boards of selectmen, and to openly explore creative options including those that address efficiencies and economies of scale for member towns and the regional school district. Finally, the HART Committee anticipates serving in an advocacy role that supports regional and statewide efforts to increase revenues and manage the escalating expenses associated with operating a high-performing school district. Our mission is to act as a bridge and a catalyst to multiple boards and the school committee. Why are we here tonight? We would like your endorsement and full support of this committee so we can collaborate wherever it is needed. We are not here to micromanage the day-to-day operations of the school district. We want to be an extra set of eyes and a resource to support the school committee. We want to strategize long-term sustainability. Because we have money from the state, we have a responsibility to the taxpayers and legislators to produce outcomes. And we would like to be on your agenda next month.
Each month after that, or just for next month?
Next month, and then we'll, I guess, ask you in the future.
All right, that works.
Well, the idea for being on the agenda next month was also to give people time to digest the information we're bringing tonight. And so then people may have other questions or ideas, and give you time to think about that and then ask more questions. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what has recently happened. So the town of Bernardston, I believe, got what's called a Community Compact Best Practices grant with Leiden. Bernardston-Leiden, yes. And so that's a program that was started by the Baker-Polito administration to support best practices in municipal government. And if you're going to pursue one of those 12 or more categories of best practice, there's money available that you can apply for. It's a 2-year cycle, so within 2 years we have to report out. The HART Committee applied for a grant for the towns of Northfield and Warwick. We will collaborate with that money as a whole district HART Committee, but Bernardston-Leiden had already applied for other things. So we received $25,000 from the state, and the process that informed that grant application was you can go online and you can look at the Best Practice Compact Grant and you can see things that other towns have already done. I think that Warwick was something like town number 296 in the state that has taken advantage of this grant money. So it's really being used by a lot of towns for a lot of different things. And what we saw was that there was one other group that had used the money for data gathering and analysis and planning for a school district that was also struggling with financial sustainability and quality. And that was Adams Cheshire. They had a report online that was written in 2017. It was 110 pages long. And it was, they had received $35,000, and I think perhaps the towns also chipped in some other money. And that report basically gave us the idea, well, we need similar. We need some data for ourselves to make some long-range decisions. So what we did was we took a certain amount of money out of our $25,000 for keeping our facilitation going as a group. We have a wonderful facilitator who helps us remember what we've talked about and plot our next moves. She's fabulous. And then we thought we'd spend $20,000 of that money to hire someone to help us do some data analysis in terms of looking at enrollment, looking at cost, looking at facilities, looking at finances in general. And in the Adams Cheshire report, the result was very detailed tables of information that could be used for decision making. No recommendations for decisions, just if this, then that kind of thing. They also made recommendations for places to invest money, because sometimes for your long-term sustainability, you have to put some money into something that you haven't been putting enough into. So that report kind of became the model for us, and where we're at right now is that we're developing requests for proposals to invite people to help us do that data gathering and data analysis. So, you know, eventually whatever comes of that would go before the school committee and before the town meetings. You know, any recommendations that eventually came out of that whole process would go through that town government process. But we're very excited to have been given the resources to begin this process as a group for the district, and we would love to work collaboratively with town government and the school committee. Any questions?
No comments from anybody?
I have a question.
Okay. And I saw Rick's hand too. Yes, go ahead and then we'll come to Rick.
Since this committee was appointed by the towns, has that report been sent to all the select boards?
No, that's our next,
Pardon?
that's our next.
That's
So there's, yeah, and there is a running record of the Heart Committee at the Bernardston Town website. That's where the most up-to-date minutes and documents can be found.
But it seems like you should be making formal reports to the towns since that's what we.
Good point.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, so I and Tracy, who's the Northfield representative, worked with her select board in the process of writing for this grant, and I worked with the select board in Warwick, and so, you know, it didn't happen without them. They are, it was mutual, you know, we had to do it together. Yeah.
Rick, I saw your hand back there.
Yeah, I just want to just say, a member of the Heart Committee, that we're still going to be having a lot of discussion and a lot of information coming to us. And it's going to be quite some time, maybe prior or by the time of the town meetings, we may have some ideas to bring to the town and to the school committee. But really nothing is really going to come out of this for quite a while until we do have all the information coming in. Just want to make that point clear.
Yes, Tracy.
I just wanted to offer, we are in the process, as Sue said, of writing this RFP to hire a firm to study. And we would love input if you folks have questions that you'd like answers, data that you would like us to collect. I'd love to have that information. I don't know if it's best if you send it to our town administrator, Willie Morales. He's collecting all the questions at the moment, and he can incorporate them into the RFP.
That'd be great, thanks. Any other comments from anybody? Okay. So what is your desire that do we need to vote on something, or where do you want us to go from here?
Well, I think the reason we thought we'd come back next month was to give people some time to think
Okay.
and digest and prepare for that kind of a thing. We would love a formal endorsement of the school committee. That would support our work, I think, the best. We've already been appointed by the select boards. But also at our next meeting, if you want to be there and help us think about the request for proposals, that would also be wonderful. You know, we need everybody's best thinking to make the best use of this resource.
Can you tell us when that date might be?
September 6th.
September 6th?
Is that a Wednesday at 6:30?
Wednesday at 6:30.
Or I think next week, the 30th.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're all getting over the summer.
The 30th.
And
On the
At
30th.
6:30.
is that going to be at the Bernardston Senior Center?
6:30. Yep.
6:30 at PI? All right. Does the committee feel comfortable about voting to support them, or do you want to vote till next month, wait till next month? Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to endorse the Heart Committee and their endeavors.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, a discussion?
Yeah, the Heart Committee in general, as we've been meeting, has been taking a lot of, or initially took a lot of guidance from the BEST committee up in west here, Buckland. And one of the things they really stressed was an open, collaborative process. And so coming here to get school board's endorsement of the Heart Committee and vice versa is just all part of that openness and working together.
It's nice to hear. I think we need more of that. So, is there any other discussion? All those in favor of endorsing? Any opposed?
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. We still want to hear from you next month, though.
Yeah, we will.
Okay, that works. Okay, old business, which is discussion on the budget.
Is there another agenda down
Another agenda.
I have one right here in that.
Oh, she's never mind, we found it.
Budget should be in here.
That's what I was trying to.
She had said they were here.
I think what's on the green paper.
Is this an agenda?
Oh, right, you're right, it's on the green
one.
paper.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
Right.
Let me pass that over quick. All right. So, how do we proceed? Do you want to?
Well, you had taken some votes at the last meeting, I believe. Was it the last meeting?
Yeah, wasn't on the ninth,
It was the 13th.
Right. Well, so you made some votes, but the agenda wasn't clear about what you were going to vote on. So I think, I wasn't at your last meeting, you had gotten together and decided that you would go back and re-vote these items.
And that was in response to a complaint about breaking the open meeting law.
Correct.
So, procedural, yes.
Yeah, I think what Russell was clarifying was that we can't always anticipate what we're gonna talk about when we talk about budget. But that, we all agreed it would be best for communication and planning and for relationships with our town people that we come back and revisit our process around it.
Even though our attorney told us what we did was correct.
Absolutely, yes.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
So, is there concerns? Yes, Deb?
Can you clarify when you said the attorney told you what you did was correct? What was correct?
When we listed
I
it,
mean,
we
yeah,
just
you-
listed budget discussion. And as Sue just said, under budget discussion, you really can't anticipate what exactly you're going to be discussing
Mhm.
under that.
Mhm.
So what we did with discussing several things was okay, but because the issue on the SRO was raised by a number of citizens, we thought it was best to come back and discuss that. But what we did was legally an okay thing to do.
So was the only thing brought up, the resource officer, in that complaint? I didn't, or were the other items that were also voted on and changed not an issue?
I believe,
Huh?
you got
No,
a, you got a copy.
You got a copy, I don't
There
know.
was, right here?
No, that's not it. No,
Yeah.
you had a copy from before.
Right, yeah, it came.
It was
We
presented
all
to you,
received-
and I think at
We
the
all
meeting.
received copies from first class mail.
I was away on vacation, yeah.
And I believe the complaint was all centered around the SR.
I have a
But-
quote from our attorney that
Oh, good. Could you please?
he said any budget changes made at the June 13th meeting must be revoted.
Right.
Not
July or
just
June?
any budget changes made at the July 13th meeting must be revoted.
And
So-
our problem is we don't have the minutes of that July meeting.
They're not approved.
Well, we have them, they're just not approved.
Exactly.
Right.
So can we take from those?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
I think it's better that you do that than not do
All
it.
right. Maybe, and you could
Okay,
read us through
so,
that, please?
The actual votes, there was one on the retention of records. That vote,
It's on page 2.
yeah, it's
number
on
2.
page 2, item 2, under section new business 1, which is the budget. And that, it was voted to put that remainder of that project on hold. And then, the second vote was taken, that's on the top of page 3, that was a vote to reduce the resource officer funding to 0. I'm at the top of page 3, at the bottom of the first paragraph on that page.
Yep.
And then I don't have any record of any further budget votes.
Those are the 2 I remember.
Pardon?
Those are the 2 I remember.
Yeah, that's all I remember too.
So,
Well, Who presented the committee with a list of proposed budget cuts? But I don't think we voted it. But if we don't know what we're cutting to, how do we know how much to cut?
Does anyone else have that sheet that Peggy has?
So
Yes.
I think part of what makes this tricky is that when we requested the budget, we requested that it be highlighted to show where changes had occurred, so that when you get the budget document again, you don't have to look at the whole thing.
Right.
And you can see the places that were in play. When that doesn't happen, you end up with this long document again that all of the thinking you've been doing kind of disappears in all the numbers there again. So, I've prepared myself to talk about some of that. But it's hard. It's hard when you get something and it doesn't show the changes.
So initially, what you had wanted to do, what my understanding is, was that, and I think it was on the agenda, but we'd have to check, is that you wanted to look at the budget and you wanted to go line by line through the budget and review it. That was what we had intended to do initially, but we got derailed partway through the meeting. That we were gonna go through it, but we didn't ever get
I
there.
think we did, actually.
We didn't go
We
through
did.
each line. We never
We
went through
did
each
that.
line. Deb
Okay.
has something to say.
Oh, didn't see
So,
that.
that particular night, I left at 8:17.
That's right.
So, I watched the video 3 times, and I watched it on TV once. So, Superintendent Miller had brought a list of suggestions that she was gonna do because she had met with all the principals. And based on what I see from the video, there were certain committee members who did not like those suggestions, and they were going to make suggestions/vote. And the big thing that I can remember from watching the video is that the 4 IAs that were taken out from each of the elementary schools wanted to be put back in. And that's when you slashed and voted on the 2 things, being the resource officer and the records retention. And all the other things were suggestions.
not supposed to
So,
mention positions, I guess.
Sue?
I just want to say, I don't recollect those things being connected at all. But,
watch the video.
Yeah, the notes are pretty clear that there was suggestions raised, and then the committee decided to do a line item review. After, and that discussion did come up, there was lots of discussion about the number of, it says right here, concern was raised about the number of instructional aid losses. And that's why the committee moved on to doing the line item review.
So, there have been,
Yes, sir.
all I can do is speak for myself. I have a lot of concerns about the reduction in paraprofessionals in the district. I think it's the school committee's job to make sure that the budget meets the needs of the district and the needs of the kids. And that is what I was trying to do. I think we should treat the SRO conversation separately, because I have a lot of other questions about that process. But all I can say is that for me, it wasn't specifically this for that. It was just, I think it's the committee's job to look at each line item in the budget. And didn't our attorney actually do a ruling on that, that it is appropriate for us to be involved with line items in the budget?
We could not change, once we vote, the total, that total is carved in stone. But our job as a school committee is to be able to move monies from one to another.
Yep. Yep.
As is the job of the superintendent, she can do the same thing.
Well, we can't increase the budget, we can
We can,
reduce it.
exactly.
We can read.
And we
We
can
can
reallocate the
reallocate,
money.
yeah.
Exactly.
That's why that budget was voted in, because it was said, we can always reduce, but we cannot increase.
Exactly.
But until we know what we're trying, the number we're trying to get to, I don't know how to decide, and we have to approve the cuts or the changes or the additions and the subtractions. But what is the number that we're trying to reduce it to?
That seems to be a problem. So,
So Ruth, the planned budget cuts that you presented to us in that little table, those were done, right? Those were already in the budget?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
so those
So what we
budgets,
just, those cuts are already in the final projected budget numbers. Ruth already went in and changed them, it just wasn't highlighted. When we got this, it wasn't highlighted so you could see where they were.
So how does that help us if we're short on revenue? I thought we were voting these to get to a new number.
It's my understanding the line items have already been changed.
yeah. The vote did not happen, it just happened. The money got changed.
You voted the budget number in the budget hearing, and that's the budget line we have. Now, if things change, so
If there's changes, we have to vote those changes from the original budget.
the original budget, it doesn't change. We
I'm not
just
saying
have
the
to.
total-
She's talking about line items.
The line
No, we
items.
don't.
Anytime there's a transfer,
Right, if there's a transfer, but this was like when you're just getting your budget, okay, the towns, everybody had voted on the dollar amount that we had set, and we had a proposed what we were gonna spend it on, okay, and so then that's the budget, it's exactly what Jane said, and now, so if we don't have revenues to make that, then we're not gonna spend all that money. Okay, even though the final budget that was approved by the committee went through that whole process, budgeting process, had a hearing, at the end, you approved that budget. That's the baseline of the budget that we're moving forward with.
I just remembered when we went through the budget in detail, that we had an IA in each of the elementary schools, and that was the budget that we voted. So somewhere between that and now, we've reduced those. So we need to see that, and we need to vote that from the original budget. I'm gonna have to go back, cause I have that folder in a separate.
If this makes it any better for you, between when this happened and now, we have more IAs than we ever had before. It's as you have.
Well, that's news to us.
Yeah.
Well, right, well, but
guess
no,
I
no,
didn't
because
see
it's,
it. I didn't see that.
because here's the issue. When Chris has somebody and an IEP comes up and they need a one-on-one, we can't wait for a month to go back and say, please, can we have this IA? You know,
No,
absolutely
that's
not.
all within
But
special
and
ed.
especially in this last couple months, you know, this ebb and flow as people leave and people come. It's very time consuming, and the other thing is that we would be having meetings every week to go over and say, okay, this person got another job somewhere else, we hired this person, and we're gonna save this much money. And there's moving pieces all the time. So for it to come to you, for us to not be able to hire, it would like hamstring the district.
I understand about the special needs and meeting on individual ed plans, but this sheet that was presented to us on
Yep.
the 13th lists specifically the salary for an elementary school IA, doesn't say anything about special needs, as being a new reduction. That was the way it was presented, that these are new, we've had to cut the IA that we added to the elementary school. That's what I'm talking about. I understand completely about meeting the needs of the special needs department. I'm just trying to get a handle on what's happened to the original amounts, where have the changes been made? That should be coming to us, and we need to vote those transfers, whether it's an increase, a decrease, and what number we're trying to get to. And that number's changed every meeting, with how much we're short. It was 102, then it was 220, and I feel lost, you know, and I was a member of the budget subcommittee. I feel like I should have a handle on it.
So,
I think we have a disagreement, perhaps, Ruth, between you and the school committee and perhaps some of the school committee members on our orientation to line items in the budget. And that's sort of at the root of this difficulty we're having.
I agree.
I think we need to clear that.
So at some point, you said you went in and you spoke to whom that ran you through the budget to understand it better?
Brenda.
Okay. Would it be possible for us to have, before too long, Brenda come to a meeting?
Well, Brenda handles the expenses.
Right.
So
But-
really what we're talking about is staff.
Exactly, but I'm just trying to figure out a way that maybe more of the committee could understand why we're doing things differently than we have in the past, and we can't wrap our brain around it sometimes.
Well,
Yes.
I guess without an actual breakout of the teacher and IA lines, where we can see who's funded and who's not and where they are and what's the same and what's different, we can't actually know what we're doing with those line items. And I think I've requested it in the past, and I'm still requesting it now. I want a breakout of the faculty and staff line items for the buildings, and I want to be able to see where we were last year and where we are this year. I feel like it's my responsibility to know that, and I feel like I'm being prevented from accessing that information, and I just want to ask for it again. Because we can't really have a dialogue about it in an informed way without that kind of information.
I agree.
Bob, I see your hand up.
Ruth, can I take it to the bank that you're telling me that there's more IAs at Pioneer this coming year than there ever have been before?
Well,
No, not ever have been before. I said there is an increase in IAs in the district, predominantly through the special ed. So yes, when we thought we were going to be able to, you know, have a reduction.
You see, it's pretty important to me if your class sizes are gonna be bigger, if you're gonna have heterogeneous grouping, that you need to have more IAs in this building than you had last year.
Well,
Sharon?
how many IAs do we have in this building, including middle school? Middle school and high school, how many IAs do we have?
Not including the special ed.
Not including one-to-ones.
I think that the proposal is, I'd have to ask Chris, is she here? Are all the IAs special ed IAs?
Many are one-to-ones and some are general special ed. Use that term, yes, needs.
So they're all have some relationship to the special education.
Yes.
So how many are there, a number, how many? Are there 20, are there 30?
Is either Jean or Jen here?
Yes.
Yeah, they're here.
Well, they can't tell us?
Well, Chris maybe can tell us, and then maybe
We
Jean can.
were counting them up today, I believe, and Jean and Jen and Karen's here too as well. I think there were a total of 7, is that correct? Yes. total of
Seven sped.
7 in middle,
Nine and 6
wait a minute,
9, okay.
a total of 9 in between middle school and high school.
That are
Yes.
one-on-ones?
No.
6 of them are one-on-one.
6.
6 of them are one-on-one, so you have 3 that are just IAs. And how many did we have last year?
I have to look that up, but honestly, I can't tell.
Anybody here can tell us how many we had last year?
We had 14 last year.
Uh-huh. So we don't have more than we have had. We have less.
We have 6
And
last
that is
year.
it was my whole point the last meeting and why we discussed this was that, you know, my whole purpose, I feel, for being on this committee is to be sure that we're restoring and keeping our educational process and within the budget of the 4 towns. And I feel that we're not doing our job. If we've got less IAs this year than we had last year, and we're putting money in places that could be not used there and used for IAs or for teachers or whatever, that's where I feel my responsibility is as a school committee member. And I feel pretty strongly about that.
Can I
Chris?
just make one little point of correction?
Sure.
We were talking about aides at Pioneer.
Yes.
And Ruth was referring to aides across the district. So I think those are
There's a
two different
difference.
numbers. Though I don't want to say an exact number right now because it could be incorrect. I don't have it right in front of me. But those are 2 different things.
Can we have an exact number by the next meeting of how many one-on-ones and
Across the
IAs,
district, are you talking about Pioneer or? Are you talking
Pioneer,
across-
middle school and high school?
I'd like to hear across the district. I
Yeah.
think that's important. We're not just
Yeah.
Pioneer-based,
Yeah, you're right.
we're 5-school-based.
Yeah.
Yes.
My own personal experience with instructional assistants has been frequently, yes, you do have an instructional assistant that's been hired because of a one-on-one need. That instructional assistant frequently is also assisting other students that are in that class. So it's not like you have an instructional assistant that is just totally focused on one student. So there is some availability of these one-on-one instructional assistants to be helping other students in the class that are having the same difficulties.
Thank goodness.
Thanks. All right, so where are we?
So we have 2 votes we have to revisit, right? The
Right.
retention of records vote and the SRO vote.
Exactly.
Okay, so in looking at the budget, I see that some of the money that had been added to the administrative assistant for the superintendent has been removed. It had been projected for like a 14,000 something dollar increase.
Right.
Right now, I see a $4,210 increase that I don't understand.
So the 1%.
I also see a similar increase under the financial clerk.
Increase or decrease?
Increase. So the 2017 number for the administrative assistant to the superintendent is 46,075. The August budget that we looked at, it's at 50,285. That's still an increase of 4,210. The financial clerk is also up 4,632. I don't know why that is. That's a pretty big raise for 1 year.
Especially with the area.
Oh.
I appreciate that some of the administrative salaries show that there is no increase 2017 to 2018.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, really appreciate that, given what we're going through.
Do you have other things, Sue?
I still have questions about why the tech coordinator travel number is so high. In 2015, it was 5,500. The next year, it went up to 10,500.
What page are you on?
Yeah, she's not got a different page.
I have my own table.
Oh, okay, all
Yeah.
right, never mind, we'll find
I can tell
it.
you where it is in the budget if you want. It's at the back.
I,
with the
yep, I
shared-
found it, next to that page.
I don't know why $9,000 is needed for that, that seems kind of high. There's also a really big decrease in the tech salary line item, went from 90,000 to 40,000.
Tyler Pless got a new job as an engineer.
Right, so we aren't rehiring for that job at that salary?
No, we are not.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
And the 10,000 is a shared travel line for people that, there's a group of people that travel. It's not for one
So
person.
it says tech coordinator travel, maybe we need to say, tech team travel or something?
Yeah, that's fine.
And why did it, I don't know why that's.
So it's just technology travel, what I see.
No, that's, I don't know, we should
That's
get the
6,000.
10,000
That's 6,000 on this green
Right.
sheet, Sue.
Where?
on the green sheet.
On the green sheet,
Oh,
it
so
says,
then that's different from the budget pages we looked at in July, because I
Yep.
used the July 13th budget. And this is the problem, Ruth, these numbers
That's
should not
right.
be changing so much. It's really hard.
Yep.
I know it's hard.
It's convoluted, it feels
You know,
convoluted.
how are you supposed to work and monitor a budget if it's always moving? It's just really infuriating, but. So I'm gonna keep going, I have a couple more. I'm just wondering about, the administrative assistant to the principal. That still shows a
of what
6,000.
town, of Pioneer?
Yeah, at Pioneer. Shows a, well, in July, it showed a $6,000 increase. Between 2017 and 2018.
And what's that figure?
29357 to
568?
568.
Yep, that's the same.
I don't know what you're comparing it to.
So these add up, these things add up, and they just feel unexplained. I mean, I know people get raises, but these are really significant changes in numbers.
I don't know what sheet you're talking from, and I don't know where,
I'm talking from this, the budget you told us was in place on July 13th.
that budget there?
Okay, maybe how, in the future, when we get, pages, you can, somehow either highlight them or bold or.
Italicize.
Yeah, anything, just so we can spot it easily. That might make a little bit easier for people to follow through. I see Michelle's hand's been up and waiting.
It's just a suggestion.
Okay,
In
good,
Lyman,
good.
when we do the budget, we have sometimes 3 years. Okay, we would have 16, 17, and 18. And when you go to town meeting and you're only there one day
Yeah.
for 4 hours, you can see, people can ask questions at the town meeting. So I think you would save a lot of time. The print would be smaller, but you can at least do what happened on June 13th, and then what happened on August 23rd. And then you could go down quickly. So just have 2 or 3 columns here. And it would, it's a suggestion. But let me tell you, at town meeting, you have 4 hours. And you will have 50 to 100 people, and anyone can go through that and look at that and ask questions.
So, can I just address that? I agree with you completely. Unfortunately, our budget line items were not aligned with the Department of Education. And so we had to get these codes in line with the Department of Ed, so that when you have to do reports like the end of the year. So we've done it and we've spread it out, but then there's all these other, there's a lot of zeros. Like this line got eliminated because it actually is now a different line. So if we can put it there, it just will maybe be more confusing for folks because of the shift from the old lines to the new lines.
Then just do it in the last 6 months, or whenever you
Oh,
change.
yeah, that's fine.
Whenever you change.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be 3 years,
Start there.
right.
And then you can look at that and questions can be answered.
I would make things easier.
It's the
Yeah.
program I think we use that is so different than what we're used to. This program that spits out these financial reports is,
This program?
well, this here,
That's
all
what
of
you've
this
been
stuff.
getting, that's what you've been getting forever.
Well, since you came, yeah.
No, this was before me, I didn't do those reports, Brendan and those guys have done them forever.
Well, there's a new program that, since you've been here.
I don't think so. I didn't change those.
Yes.
If you're going to make changes, I think you should have either a header or a footer that has the date that the report is
Yes.
prepared, the
Yes.
page number, page
Yes.
1 of 28, or whatever
Yep.
it is, 2 of 28.
Be nice to have line item numbers too.
Then you can find things, and when you look at things, you know when it was printed.
Exactly. And not write them like Peggy
Not
has
a
been
print
great
date,
at.
you can't use a print date, because that might not be the prepare date, so you need 2 dates. Prepare date and print date.
Yes, that would be.
Can I keep lecturing?
Sure, go for it. Anytime, those are great suggestions.
Yes.
I would like to get to the 2 items that we are voting on tonight.
Okay.
Because I think we could go on for 24, we could have a filibuster on
Okay.
budget line items.
So on about the 10th item down on the front page, under district administration, it says, record retention, $10,000.
So we need to vote on that because we took that out.
So that was deleted in our last
No,
discussion.
That's what
that
we
was
voted.
nullified.
It's,
Okay.
yeah,
We have to vote
everything
again.
is zero.
Okay. Oh, that's right.
But I still don't understand why the $4,000 is in there. I mean, it's basically $20,000 in raises in the administrative line items. At a time when we're losing all these teachers in Paris, I just want an explanation.
Can you speak?
It would be, no, I don't know where her numbers are coming from, and so I think that if you wanna have this dialogue, I have no problem if you come in, sit down, I'll show you all the books. Nothing's hidden and nothing has been. And don't forget that all these numbers were vetted by the budget subcommittee. They went line by line, item by item, and had an explanation to everything. This was not done in isolation. There was a committee that spent months going through the budget.
So they approved $14,000 increase for your administrative assistant at the budget subcommittee.
What, you know what, I'm not gonna go back there. All I'm saying is, I have no problem.
The numbers are right here.
What?
The numbers are clear, and they're right here. They're not a mystery.
Nobody's saying that
Nobody-
they are.
nobody's
There's a
saying there is.
2017 listed number, and there's a 2018 listed number. And
Correct.
the difference is not explainable. I'm asking for an explanation.
At this second, I'm not gonna give it to you. If you
I
want
think that
to,
you should be prepared to do that.
to give you line by line, item by item,
I'm not
person by
I'm asking
person.
for 3 or 4 lines.
Well, then-
that have
then
been in
give-
discussion for a long time.
And it's on the agenda.
No,
It was not
it's
on the
not.
agenda.
Well,
The
this is on
budget
the
discussion
agenda.
has been ongoing.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes.
I believe that that increase was approved by the budget subcommittee based on work that the administrative assistant was doing above and beyond what her normal duties were.
The $10,000.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's a $14,000 something increase
For who?
for the
Staff
administrative assistant.
assistant.
So if you
So-
take the 10 out, there's still a $4,600 increase. I want to know what that is.
It was,
I think it's a longevity and percent raise per year,
There's a percentage.
according to the contract.
It was an increase in her salary. Technically, it's my job to determine salaries of people. It's my job to deal with personnel. And you cannot like the fact that I gave my admin assistant a raise, and that's fine, but I did not hide it. I did not, it was very transparent through the budget process, and yes, there were people that got raises, and there are people that jump up and get longevity. But for me to hold that dollar amount in my head for every one of these is not possible. So I would be happy to sit down and go line by line and explain it all to you. But at the 11th hour, after the budget committee has already approved it, is not the time to do it.
Well, when we are in a crisis situation where we're losing this many teachers and faculty, that's when you have to go back into the budget and fine tune things like this. And it is my responsibility to ask these questions. And I disagree that it's appropriate for those numbers to be going up.
we were told at the budget meeting that that increase was because of the rolling in of the records retention. It was, we were
Well,
told
that
that
$10,000 was, yes.
but we weren't told that that was the breakdown. I mean, we just,
Oh, I think we were. I was in every one of those budget meetings. I'm sorry.
It was all given to us.
It wasn't,
Because I'm also on the budget subcommittee.
right, it's not
and you had a
like,
breakdown between how much was raised and how much was records retention.
we went
Yeah,
through
we
every
went through
line
the whole
item,
thing.
every
I
dollar.
was there.
So I disagree. I think it's not the appropriate year for you to be giving your assistant
Then that's
$11,000
okay, but it's my prerogative to set the wages and salaries of the district.
Yeah.
The committee does not have any oversight over personnel. Their job is, and it's very laid out in a book in front of Deb right now, what your role is and what your role is not. And your role is not to do that. It's just not, and I know you'd like it to be, and I take recommendations, but you don't see the big picture on a daily basis, you just don't.
We're trying to, but we never get.
Sharon?
I'd like to make a motion to reduce the record retention figure of $10,000 off the budget.
Second.
You
Would like
said
to delete that?
reduce.
You meant delete.
Delete.
Second.
Now, is there any discussion on that motion?
At
I
at
thought
which such time are the retention of those records going to be put back into?
Too early to tell when we get.
It needs to be done. It needs to be done. We need to get those
Sometimes-
files finished
Yep.
and destroyed and gone.
I
That
agree,
are
but with
the
this-
one that's been in the basement.
With this budget constraints, it's not the year to do it.
Yes, Jenny.
At this point, students need to have access to those records for many, many years. And it behooves us to retain them before they're totally destroyed by the environment they're in. And a $10,000 change in this budget is not gonna give us another instructional assistant, it's not gonna give us another teacher.
It might, we don't know.
I mean, if you look at that just doesn't meet what their pay is.
Is there any more discussion? There is a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor of deleting that $10,000? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed?
Can they, people put their hands up longer for in favor?
In favor? Jim, John, Bill, Pat, Sharon, Sue, and Peggy.
Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay. Opposed? Deb and Jeannie.
What condition are those records?
She's found some really moldy ones, but it's.
Are they fading?
Yeah, it is what it is. They voted not, and so they're gonna sit there. Nothing we can do about it.
Okay, so now that brings us to our next position, which is the SRO. Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to delete the $28,000 SRO position or figure.
What page is
Is there a second?
Page 8, right here.
I'll second.
Discussion. Deb.
So, in regards to the SRO, there was some school committee members and audience members who loudly voiced concern for male presence in PVRS. And you are talking about a major, influential, positive role model, and you want to get rid of him. He's done.
I want to get rid of the $28,000.
Look, how are you going to pay him?
I said get rid of the $28,000.
All right.
How are you going to pay him?
Jeannie?
I have some questions around some of the accomplishments that the officer has made. One of the statements was that he trained all the teachers in CPR. They did not have to do it on their own time. Do you know how many teachers were trained? How many took advantage of the training? How many ignored that? If we saved the lives of one student with that training, then it's worth more than $28,000.
However, we
The
have
other,
nurses.
I'm not,
Right.
the other thing is to hire somebody to come in and do that training is a minimum of $50 per person that is being trained. Add that up to, Gina, how many teachers do we have here, staff?
All of us, I'm not 100% sure, something around 60 probably.
60, that's 30, that's how much money right there. That did not come out of the taxpayer's dollar. I can't tell you how valuable the CPR training is. And if, you know, I personally do it on my own time. I question how much of the staff would take advantage of it if they had to do it on their own time, based on the fact that none of them want to do that bike club unless they're gonna get reimbursed for it. That was this came up at the last meeting, Sharon. That came from teachers themselves. How are we gonna get paid for doing this? I agree with Deb that, to lose another respected male figure in this school is a huge detriment to our students.
Can I make a
Yeah,
point?
please do.
So we can debate this, but we have a signed contract with the police department of Northfield to provide us that resource officer at that dollar amount. That agreement was made after the committee had voted and put it in the budget. We have an obligation to Northfield to fill this position at this time. Cutting it now makes no sense. If you want to have a really thoughtful process, start it, in the next couple months and have an ongoing dialogue with the teachers and the staff and right. But this year we have a signed agreement, and we didn't sign the agreement ahead of time. We did it thoughtfully after the budget was approved. So to cut this now, then we're going to get in a legal battle with one of our towns. That makes no sense at all.
It's a budgetary crisis within this district right now, and I don't feel terrible about recommending this reduction. And also, our staff, we have 5 nurses in this district, 2 of which are excellent instructors, and they charge for the cost of the book, which is $5 for anybody who wants to take the course. So it isn't $50 a person. So right there, you're saving a ton of money. We give them in Northfield all the time. Our nurse here gives them all the time. So although it's wonderful that he does it, and yes, it saves lives, but we do have the resources within the district to continue that and continue saving, hopefully, lots of lives.
Okay, so now we've had some, okay, Sue, and then I would like to speak.
Okay, yeah, do you wanna go first?
No, you can go ahead.
I just, I would like to know, did the school committee, to my mind, the school resource officer is a person working in our building, right? And to my understanding, the school committee did not review or approve the job description for that person. And the curriculum and personnel committee never considered that position for Pioneer ahead of time. The agreement to have a school resource officer was made between you, Ruth, and the police chief without the involvement of the school committee. And that is a concern to me, because it's a job in the building.
Yeah, you had to approve it, and the towns had to approve it.
Well,
Maybe it was before you were on the committee.
I can't find any minutes that talk about the job description for that person being reviewed by this committee, and that, I see it in budgets, but I don't see that job was discussed or approved ahead of time. My other concern is that the MOA, people have been asking for this for a long time, and it wasn't until the complaint was filed that the MOA was provided. And the last page of this shows an increase, a raise to $32,000 from 25 or 26. I've never seen the $32,000 number before until I saw this. And I don't believe that the school committee even realized that that raise was happening. So there's a lot about this that I think is a problem. And I think that there's a December 30th draft job description, 2016. I've never seen a non-draft approved by the school committee job description that was vetted by this school committee. And I think that as a job in the building, that we should be involved in approving that job description. I think that's what's supposed to happen with new positions in the district. So at its base, I have a problem with how it all kind of came about to begin with.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and say my spiel and then I'll recognize people. I have been in conversation with our attorney about this issue a lot, like every other day for the past 3 weeks, it seems. And when I spoke to him this morning, they weren't available to come this evening. His opinion was that when we voted the final budget, which was our budget as of the town meetings, that the money was in there for the security officer. So that means that at that point, the money was there. And so therefore, after that was approved, the money is in that budget and we need to spend it for the security officer. There's only one way of not spending that money, and that is to get a waiver from the state, of which I understand is not an easy thing to go through. You have to go through the police chief and various other things. We can say that we don't have the money, but we have to have the towns agree that. And then we have to connect with the town of Northfield, because that's who our police officer is from, to have the towns agree also not to fund that position. So we can, within this position, modify it or change the job description, but we really legally, as much as we would love to get that either 28,000 or 32,000, whatever it is, it's in our budget and we can't touch that. I'll talk Sue because she's a school committee member, Jim, and
Why don't
then.
you let Jim first, because I
Okay, all right, Jim.
Just to address this issue, and I don't know how it's addressed in the school, but my concern is alcohol and drugs and the safety of the kids. And I think if the officer provides that safety, that's really important to me.
Yeah.
Just historically, and some of you will remember this, and I don't know all the details, but 3 or 4 years ago, when the state really ramped up the safety and security, part of what the recommendation was for school districts to have a safe school security support officer. And that the first year they talked about it and implemented it, we did not have one. The next year, we wrote a waiver for one for the previous superintendent, and then 2 years ago, we had a security officer. So I don't know, and I said some of this at the meeting in July, I don't know if you can write or even ask for a second waiver, and I don't know if waivers are granted anymore. But there's a little bit of factual information about where it came from. It wasn't originated in this district, it was originated across the state.
According to our attorney, you can indeed ask for a waiver, but the town has to also allow it. So, Kathy and, yeah.
I would just suggest this issue clearly is gonna go on for however many more meetings. I would ask that you either speak with Principal Bacon or whomever to get some accurate information. It's very concerning to me to be sitting here and hearing a committee member say that all staff members were trained in CPR. I find that to be extremely inaccurate. I would also ask that you ask for specifics in terms of how many criminal offenses did this officer address, because there are many, many things in the course of the school day that he cannot address. I'm not promoting the school resource officer one way or the other, but I am promoting, get your facts and find out how valuable that person is or not. Can the position be reduced and still be effective, perhaps? But please ask some more questions.
Yes, you had your hand up. I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Mike Townsend, Bernardston.
Thanks, Mike.
I guess if the board could familiarize themselves with Chapter 71, Public Schools, Section 31, the 37B, School Resource Officer, that might shed some light on the funding issues, whether you're required to have the officer or not. And also House docket number 147, House number 227, regarding grants for the resource officers. This was 1/6 of 2017, so this is pretty new. And I don't know if the town or the school board or the police chief has looked into this, or Section 37B. It does have something here also for school resource officers being covered by the state police. That the police chief talks with the state police. That's all part of this, so the board could maybe get that information and review it along with the grant. Maybe the grant, they're still available this year to cover the cost of that resource officer a part of his salary.
Would it be possible for you to send some member of the school
these
committee?
copies.
That would be great. Thank you. Sue?
So I did review the law. And it's interesting because the law says that if the town police department can't afford to fund the resource officer, they can go to the state police for funding. But there's nothing in the law specifically for if the towns are struggling to fund their share of the resource officer. So my suggestion would be that since we have cut so many people, that we focus our money on teachers, and that if the towns want a resource officer in this building, that perhaps all the other towns chip in to help offset the
They're
cost.
already chipping in, I think.
Well, I know that Northfield is paying. I'm not aware of other towns paying for school resource officers.
We're all paying, we pay
I'm
our
just saying,
assessment.
right,
We're
I
paying part
get
of
that, I get that. So my other thought.
helping.
Yeah, no, I get that. My other thought is that there are two separate issues here. One is about the role of the officer and the job description for the officer and the engagement of the school committee in that, and the other is the funding. I think they're separate issues.
They're really not separate issues.
Well,
A
tell me
police
that.
officer is a police officer. We can't change his job description. When he walks in the door, he's a Northfield police officer. And we can't say, oh, well, we don't want you to do things this way or that way. He's going to operate as a police officer, as he should.
For instance, he's in our building and he's making referrals to outside agencies about kids and families, it says in that draft job description. I just want to talk about that. I think the school committee should be talking about that.
If,
He's not a licensed social worker, so he should
but
not be.
he is mandated to report just as a teacher and a nurse is.
Not to refer.
Right, but in a building, there are protocols for how you do referrals. I just think it should be something we talk about.
Excuse me, Sue, what kind of a referral?
Do you want me to just read from the job description?
Well, I think that Pat, from what the lawyer told her, it's a moot point for this year, and that it's something that we all we'll need to look at closely for next year's budget. That's my recommendation.
I just have one other question, and it's more, we have an amendment to the memorandum of understanding that's addresses the salary for 17-18. It predates the original memorandum of understanding. So I don't know if somebody hurried up and
Somebody put
created
the
this.
wrong year on it.
Oh, maybe,
It's not initialed or anything.
It's,
so.
well, the date's on there in a couple of places. It's dated January 18th, 2016, and the original one is July 2016. So, I mean, I'm sure that's a mistake, but
Typo.
that's where that's the first time I'd seen the 32,000 figure, which is not what's in our budget, is when we got this open meeting complaint form. So we don't have the 32 budgeted, we have 28.
Correct.
There's a lot of. Karen and then Jack.
Okay, Karen O'Neill from Leiden. I agree with Sue that there are two issues here, and I would really urge you to quickly come up with a job description that is satisfactory from an educational point of view, as well as a police point of view. I have heard media reports of school resource officers, because they have access to student records, can help ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement build cases against students to have them removed from the country. Now that may seem very far away to us, but it seems like there's a line here we may not want to cross.
That was in the news this week.
Jack?
To clarify the line item, memorandum of understanding, the memorandum of understanding essentially calls for the school district to compensate Northfield for 50% of the school resources officers' hours. However, 80% of Officer Comerson's time is spent here. So Northfield is subsidizing that position by 30%, and we're glad to do so. If you had to get your own school resource officer, it's probably going to cost you between $55,000 and $60,000 a year. Here, again, Igor is spending 80% of his time at the school. That's even including Friday afternoons off and summers off. The school district's getting a deal.
Pat, Ella's had her hand up.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Do you mind, can I speak very briefly?
I think you may.
Thank you, I appreciate it. My name is Ella Bochi, and I'm a rising sophomore here at PVRS. And I remember very vividly arguing with my mom a year ago, a week before school started, about the importance of having a school resource officer in the school. I was very apprehensive and slightly disapproving. And I can confidently say now that more than ever, I have never been as wrong to start an argument with my mom than I was in this case.
Does she know that?
I just told her.
She does
I'm in Pioneer 5 days a week, almost all hours of the daylight. I can pretty confidently say that. I have never been more surprised or delighted at the usefulness of a member of Pioneer faculty. Officer K, or more favorably known as Igor, has managed to make a very strong connection with many students. With a lot of conviction, I can say that you can never have too many people in a middle and high school for students to talk to. He is a huge support and help within the school. He has come into my health class to answer questions and has acted as a friendly source for upperclassmen and as an ally and supportive figure for younger students. Last school year's turmoil was stressful for all of the students. Many of us are excited and nervous to start the school year fresh with new teachers and guidance counselors. I can say affirmatively that having a constant and familiar figure such as Officer K remain at PVRS and the elementary schools in the district is critical for the students. I want to keep that brief, but I just want to clarify from a student perspective what Officer K has meant to the school. And I think that that's a really important thing to take into consideration at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Ella.
Once again, I am very proud of you standing up and speaking your word. You do it eloquently. Thank you. Sis.
I just would at some point love the community to be able to talk about, with more of the data that Kathy was suggesting that we have, how many hours does it really make sense for an officer to be here? You know, maybe drop off, pick up, drop in at lunch. I don't know that in this school with the low level of crime that we have in our area that it seems appropriate to me anyway, just off the face of it, for an officer to be in our school full time. And I think it would be appropriate for us to have the conversation. I think there could be a middle ground that we could find.
And I remember when we spoke first about having a security officer in our district, we also spoke about having that person in the 4 elementary schools. And I think there should be a way of making that work. I understand the DARE program is gonna be happening in the fall, and he will be trained in that, and I think whatever we think about the DARE program, I think for the kids to get to know a policeman in kindergarten or preschool is a wonderful thing. They're friends, they're not enemies that you slow down as you pass them by because they might stop you. They're real people who are out there helping us out. So, I would hope that would happen. But I think we have discussed at length, and there is a motion and a second on the floor. Can you read that back to us?
Well, the motion was by Sharon, second by Sue, to remove the funding for the school resource officer in the amount of $28,000.
And you said the attorney said we can't do it.
Our attorney said that we could not do that legally. So does anyone want to do anything to that motion?
We can either withdraw the motion or vote
Or we
it
can
down.
vote on it? What's your desire?
What is the, no, I don't know how to word it, so I guess I'm.
Well, let's vote on it and see what happens, and then go from there. It might be neither.
So, why does this committee insist upon setting itself up for a lawsuit?
What do you mean, do we insist on setting ourselves up? How many times have we gotten sued?
The chair
How many
just,
times have we gotten sued?
You are setting, honest to God, Sharon, what is wrong?
Okay,
Let's see,
Why
let's
are
see how the
you
vote
so
goes.
Let's vote.
Let's vote.
I don't wanna vote if our attorney's saying it's not appropriate to vote. So
The
then we-
chair
so-
just
so
said-
I'm wondering if we just,
Sure.
we might withdraw the motion and make a new motion, more of a policy motion about how the committee would like to revisit and engage with the whole question of the job description and the funding for the resource officer for next year, just so we know it doesn't go away and we set.
That's up to the maker of the motion.
So
I'll rescind my motion.
And if-
And how about your
Yeah,
second?
and I'll rescind.
Okay. Now, Sue, would you like to make that motion? Because you
Sure.
know what you were gonna say.
Sure, okay. So I would like to make a motion that before the school resource officer is approved for the coming school year, that the school committee revisit the question of their engagement with the job description and the planning for the resource officer in our building. And that we talk clearly about what we can afford for funding,
If we can.
if we can.
Can I just, instead of saying for this building, can I say for the district?
For the district,
Or
absolutely,
Okay.
yes. Anybody else have any
All right, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. I saw hands. Yes,
I'd just
Lois.
like to comment, you act as though you're sitting here, isolated. There are a lot of towns, Pioneer was not the first one to come up with this. I mean, they've been given the law, what it says, what you should have. And many, many of the towns around have had them longer than we have. You've got it right up there in Hinsdale, New Hampshire, where one of your members teaches. They have a school resource officer. Former police chief in Hinsdale is doing that job and doing very well. You keep talking about you want to rewrite or write your own job description. This school resource officer works for the town of Northfield. He's going to have a job description that the police department comes up with here. You're trying to talk about things that you have concerns, but you're not going about them the right way. Pat, you quoted your attorney as to what, and that's absolutely right. And here we are, coming here tonight wondering what you're going to do about this, because school starts next Wednesday. The officer's ready. He's already on the job. He's working for the town, and he's ready to do that. You're considering here, you aren't right now, but you were considering eliminating this position and saying, okay, go tell him tomorrow that he hasn't got a job. Ridiculous. Think about what it is.
We've had this discussion months ago though, Lois. It isn't that we're just doing it overnight, and just like, and it isn't the position of the resource officer. He's valuable in the building. It's the money. We're in a real tight situation. It's about the money. It's not about him.
Yeah, but as was said, you've set your budget, you've given assessments to the towns, we voted them at our town meetings, and you cannot go back on that now.
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying. Sure, we want to keep the budget down as much as possible, but it's a little late on this effort at this time.
We got a lot of staff members leaving, so we've got monies out there too that the towns voted to have. Yeah, I mean, it's a mess. It's.
Gail, you had your hand raised.
I was just going to suggest that the motion, if it would be great if the motion could include not just discussion with the school committee alone, but discussion with the town of Northfield and the police department.
Well, that was what I was gonna say is.
4 towns.
I would think, seeing we have our police chief right here, that maybe when the job description was worked, maybe we could work with you to come up with something that would work for both of us.
The MOU pretty much spells out exactly what the officer does here.
Well, I'm
and
not,
what he has been doing.
yeah, I'm not sure that all of us have seen that, so.
Well, I have, and I still have questions.
Just a few months ago, the officer came in with the principal and sat here.
It was in December.
And discussed what his position was, the work he's been doing, and he actually had a graph. And he broke down exactly what his work was, hour for hour in this building.
We saw that.
And at the end of that presentation, everybody on the school committee thanked him and approved of what he's been doing.
Right.
So,
But
here tonight, we're now discussing it like that never happened.
And that was January 26th,
Okay.
2017.
Couple more, and then we need to vote on the motion. So,
I just think it's our job to discuss the jobs of people in the building.
I do.
is there anything new? Hearing none, there's a motion and a second on the floor.
No, I'm confused. What is the
You're
motion?
always confused. No. Okay.
Please.
So, the previous motion to remove the funding for that position was withdrawn. So the new motion is that before the school resource officer is approved for the next school year, you said the coming school year, but I assume you mean FY19.
Next budget.
Following.
Yeah.
That the school committee would revisit the job description, the roles, the presence, and funding methods for the position.
Okay.
And then
So he's all
Gail
set
su-
for this year.
And Gail
All right.
suggested that would include discussions with the police department
Absolutely,
and the towns, the affected towns.
Okay, so that motion is on the floor.
And can I just say that should happen at the curriculum and personnel level and then be
Yes.
brought to the full school committee?
Yes.
Well, it also be by the budget subcommittee.
Exactly, yeah.
Rob, is there any flexibility in this officer's job description?
Not really.
Thank you.
Well, that's something we can talk about at the time.
But it's not.
No, but you don't
I
get to
don't-
dictate somebody
we
else's.
didn't
No, but they have them
generate
teach
the
gym
MOU. I don't know where that came from. We'll talk about it at the time.
Yeah.
I have had people ask me questions throughout the year from other schools within Western Mass, social workers, psychologists. Here's the lines that he could step over in discipline. He should be touching discipline within the school, and he shouldn't be counseling kids, and he shouldn't be recommending that they go to certain.
So these are all things we should discuss.
Yeah,
I think these discussions are to be handled at budget and curriculum personnel and not tonight. Tonight, we have we have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor of the motion?
What, vote in favor
Of the motion? Okay, opposed? Abstaining? Are you abstaining, Jen?
I'm abstaining.
Okay, with one abstention. And I am in favor of that motion also. Okay, and we will bring this back to C&P because I think it will take a little bit of discussion as we can see from tonight. Okay. Yeah, she is I know. Okay. All right. Under new business, you have a question to ask Ruth? No? Okay. Have we approved Ruth Cote as our school physician?
Yes,
Yes, we did.
Okay.
And
having done that,
Right.
would you like to read that for us or explain?
Well, there's a motion, given the budget constraints, Ruth Pote has said that she would waive taking her salary. That was something she wanted to do, and so I brought it forth to you to approve. Or maybe you don't have to make a motion, maybe she can just not take the money.
I think you have to accept.
I think we have to accept
Accept it as a gift.
Exactly.
We pay her,
Stipend.
Yeah, we
Yes.
pay.
Question.
It's not a lot of money. It's
I know
for
that,
each
what
of
she
the
gets paid,
schools.
but my question is, does she get any benefits? I mean-
No, nothing, no. And it's
Okay.
very generous of her to do that.
Yes, it
and
is, I agree.
Jeannie?
I'd like to make a motion to accept Ruth Cody's generous waiver of her stipend for being a school physician.
Thank you. Is there a second? All right. All those in favor of acceptance with gratitude? All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ruth.
Could we direct the office to send a thank you to her?
Yes, we'll send it,
right.
thank you.
And Ruth, I'm not sure if you're over there or not, but if you are,
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, she's there.
I can't see around corners very well. And the next thing is the information.
So in front of you is a concerns/complaint from the superintendent, and it's very thoughtful document outlining with backup and details some issues that I think that we need to address. I don't believe that, excuse me, I don't believe that this is something we should take up tonight in open public session. I have spoken to the Attorney General's office, and you have they treat this the same, and that you can go into non-public session for this. And so I think that the best way to deal with this, I wanted you to have the information in the backup so that you could hopefully, in the law, to help understand where I was coming from. And so I think it might be appropriate to have the district attorney take a look at it and meet with us. It's in direct, the purpose of this is that the continuation of this August 31st meeting, there's been, that's an executive session that's been planned for. It's clear that there's been communication about that. Some, again, documentation in the packet that I gave you. So I wanted you to have this. I'd like you to, I recommend it is get the attorney involved, and we should have a meeting in the next couple of weeks to address some of the concerns here.
Well, that's gonna be on the August 31st meeting?
No, I think that we need to have a meeting before that, because we have to look at, were there some policies and things not done appropriately? I gave you some information in the packet about the roles and responsibilities of the school committee and where it begins and ends. And I think that this isn't like a formal complaint going anywhere. I know that there's been some others that have been filed on the committee, and I didn't want to do that. But I think we need to have a dialogue and an understanding of the boundaries and rules around what the school committee is responsible for and what the superintendent is responsible for. And I've been trying to have that conversation, and I felt that I had to go to this end to get the conversation done.
Yes.
I feel that this is absolutely the wrong place to bring this up, and because it makes me feel as though I have a gag order put on me. I can't say the things that I would like to say that haven't been done for the past 2 years. So I think that this is not a place to discuss this. It should be an executive session.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
well then let's stop discussing it. You would call us out if we tried to. I'm calling you out. Let's stop discussing it and doing an executive session.
Fine.
Yes?
Excuse me, Ruth. You said something about continuation of the 8/31 meeting. Do you mean the March 31st
It
meeting?
says, it might say March on there, but it's August 31st.
All right, thank you.
August
Where-
31st.
where is it?
It's on the minutes of your, it's right here.
Oh.
On your meeting, it says August 31st. You have
Okay,
something
thank-
planned.
All right.
Mhm.
So,
It's on your agenda. There's a meeting that was set up.
Right, but where does it say March?
I think
Ruth
there.
verbally said.
Oh, did I say
Oh,
March?
okay.
Sorry, August.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
No, I'm sorry, it said March on here, on our agenda.
Oh, on the beginning agenda, Pam had the wrong date. It's the August 31st.
Correct on this.
No, mine's
Mine
right.
says August.
Mine's August too.
The
No.
draft one that was sent out said.
Oh,
right,
Oh,
right,
that's
right.
the
All
one.
right,
correct.
then mine must have been the old one.
Right.
Yeah, that's all right.
You know, I have few
All right, Jack?
emails that
Yeah.
I've checked.
I was just listening to what the superintendent said, and it seems to me that between now and the 31st, you may be asked to cancel that meeting on the 31st.
That's exactly right.
We are.
That's
Jack.
right, right?
That's exactly
Yeah.
right.
So the question is, do you want to do that over the next 2 weeks in legal aspects, or legal aspect, or do you want to talk about it right now in open public forum?
I would not recommend that, given what you guys have in front of you.
No.
Do not, I
So
do
why-
not
why
recommend
But you're
that.
asking
Given
for
to
it.
us tonight.
Jack, I can make a recommendation to the committee that that is not in their best interest. That was not the spirit that I have put forth. I wanted them to have the information, and we need to move forward, but absolutely not.
You're giving them a choice now. It seems to me that if there was no choice, you would take that route. So you're giving them a choice whether they can talk about it now or not. You're saying, she recommends, she's not requiring it. So it's something to think about.
So why didn't we put an executive session on the agenda for
Because it
tonight?
was too late. You have to have
Well,
it
then don't
48
do it.
hours in advance.
And you didn't know about this 48 hours ago?
Actually, I hadn't gotten it fully flushed out. No, I did not.
I feel like I'm being pressured
I
into
do too.
inaction on the 31st. I mean, who works for whom here?
Exactly.
I think that if we look at, where's that book at then? If we look at this, we'll know where the school committee stands and where the superintendent does.
I've read that.
That's not about this.
That's not what this is about.
It has a lot to do with it.
I know you
Well,
feel
it doesn't have to
that.
do with how it's being brought up, okay? That's what the issue was right now.
So she didn't disclose anything.
Well, she certainly put it on the table.
So, I think we're sort of in shock at this point.
I think so too.
Not quite
I think we
knowing.
should adjourn. I really do. We're not gonna get any work done here.
Let's continue, yes.
I would like to have members of the school committee raise their hand and be recognized before they speak.
For you too. You've spoken out of turn tonight too, my dear.
Okay, yes. All right. I would suggest that we table this discussion and move on, because this is not a,
We're not
this
prepared.
isn't the time nor the place.
Yeah.
Illegal.
Deb, one last thing, please.
Yeah, so I would just like to say this. We are, what, less than 10 days before school opens.
Yeah.
I am sick to death of the nonsense that's been created between the public and this committee. I'm sick to death. The parents of kids in this community are sick to death of this negative bantering. We need to move forward.
You're part of it.
We need to move forward. And we need to stop this stuff, because it does no good for the district. It does no good for our students. Unless you can tell me the negativity that comes out of this, how is that good for anybody? It destroys the towns, it destroys the community, it destroys the students, and we have to knock it off.
I
And we have to
agree.
grow up and we have to move forward.
All right, let's stop this discussion.
I just want to say something, Jack. I have a right to say something. I agree 100%, and I think that the articles in the newspaper ought to be a lot more clear, honest, and they need to be positive as well. They have been fed some information that is not 100% true. So there you go.
So,
let's move on to the handbook approval. Okay?
There's nothing right here.
Can I make a suggestion? I never speak in public. I'm going to speak. My name is Amy Tibbetts. I've been teaching in the district for 19 years. I could say a lot, but I get emotional. I've felt very supported by every principal that I've had and by administration for the past 19 years, including the whole time that Ruth has been here. And can I suggest that when people speak to each other, they do it without bullying each other? Or we should stop the meeting. Somebody who's in charge should suggest that we stop and reconvene when people can be kind to each other, as we would expect our students to do to each other. Woo! I guess I can do it.
Okay, moving on to the handbooks.
Who do you want first?
Peggy, you raised an issue, did you, or Bill? Bill, you have them.
Peggy spoke to me, and I guess the ones in the email that were forwarded to us, these look like they've been revised and complete, like the work we did throughout last spring. But apparently the ones we received electronically weren't quite so much. They had a lot of mistakes in them. So these look like they've been.
They look
These
okay.
Yeah.
were, and the reason we skipped that subcommittee was because they absolutely have to be approved, because they want to get them out to give them to kids and parents before school starts. And so I didn't mean to jump over you.
And I'm
It
all
was
in
just very
favor of-
confusing with the.
Yeah.
And there are still some
Oh.
little things that we can clean up, which should be done, but they're fine. I mean, I
They're
read them
okay.
until I was.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yes, Sharon.
Are these corrected ones online, or are the ones that aren't corrected online? Or aren't they online?
Well, why don't you guys come help us?
Yeah.
Come help us out.
That would be nice.
All right, we need light.
The principals have met and we took all of the recommendations that the subcommittee put out. We've incorporated them into the handbooks. There may be a little bit of formatting that's left, and occasionally when they're transmitted electronically, it does alter the paging on it. But we believe that we've put everything together as requested by the subcommittee, and believe that they're ready to move forward and go out.
Super, thank you.
I would just add that I would say about 90% roughly is the same in each of the handbooks. There are some parts that are tailored to each of the schools that need to be tailored to each of the schools, but there's pretty significant consistency across them. The formatting piece is still in sort of each of our styles, and that may be something that we can work towards, but that's a very tedious process that when we're in four separate buildings, it's a little bit harder to do, but it could be something that we work towards.
Megan, your formatting is just terrific, and even having the policies listed, the name of them, the appendix A, it's just terrific. The categorizing, health is one section.
I would just say that I spent way too much time on that though. And
well, you're good to go. I couldn't find anything wrong.
I mean, they look great. They look
And I would
fantastic.
just add that, at least, with no administrative assistant to proofread, from a principal who badly needs proofreading. I'm sure that there are some typos in there and formatting things that can be cleaned up.
Right, thank you. Sue, you
Well,
have your
thank
hand
you for
raised.
all that, because
I just know that in terms of the Pioneer one, the council was supposed to work on that, the school council, and we never really got to it. So the plan was for it to get worked on over the summer with students, so I don't know what happened.
Right, we
And
had,
whether it's ready. 'Cause
I mean, it is what it is, it's substantially, pretty much similar from last year. We had some updates from policies from Chris and other things that we incorporated over the course of the school year, as all of us did. We did have a group of students meet a couple times over the summer. They revised the dress code, but the proper procedure is
The
for us to
important
bring that
things.
back to the school council before it comes to the school committee. So the old dress code is still in here. We may, over the next couple of months, come back with some other policies, first to the school council, once that gets reconvened, and then it'll come to the school committee as we continue to work for refining some of our policies.
I remember the discussion years ago about that dress policy, so I'll be interested to
It
see what
never
they come up
changes.
with. Yes.
I noticed that Elizabeth has parents or students signing. Is that a proposal for the other schools as well?
They all do that.
To
They
have
all
that
an-
signatures?
It's not
All
in
right.
it, but they have an acknowledgement that they signed.
Okay, I
Right.
just wanted to double check. Thank you.
And because there were revisions, these will go out to all of the families. And then posted online once they're
Once they're cleaned up.
So they're all posted online?
They will be once they're voted on. They're,
All I can say is thank you, because there's a boatload
There's
of
a
work.
lot of work.
Yes, Thank you so much.
Don't know who to talk to about it. The pro roads, the school lunches were wrong, prices.
I think that may have been corrected.
Okay, that's something that,
Yes.
you know.
So is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second?
Correct?
All right. Okay, there's a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor of approving? That looks unanimous. And thank you. Very, very good.
So, Bob, if you want to wait just a minute, just an update. I don't know if you probably are aware that Deanna accepted another job, and she will not be coming back to
Who's Deanna?
Deanna LeBlanc. She was the principal and the
Okay, yep.
early
pro
ed
roads.
I thought we were going
program.
to discuss that after.
And so, while Bob's here, I just want to let you know that I worked out with Bob, and he is going to be actually the principal of 2 schools. Gail's going to be working with him, you know, to supervise and make sure that everything flows smoothly for the opening of schools and down the road. So this is, it seems the proximity of the 2 schools, that's something that will work, and Bob has gracefully accepted.
And Pro Roads has been a sister school to Bernardston, so it's a good match.
It is a good match. And the preschool part of her job, Renee Keir has very gracefully said that she would take that over. And right, but you know, she's just got all the credentials and everything, and it's just really nice. And on a positive note, I think that we have staff members that do step up and help us out, and we work together collaboratively, and that's kind of the goal of the district. But thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob.
Bob?
I would like to know if this is a temporary move or a full-year move.
The reason that we went in this direction is because there's been so much conversation around closing Pearl Road.
Well, that's going to be 3 or 4 years.
I
ago.
know, hold on.
That isn't even public.
What, it's been public, the whole Heart Committee's been working on it.
No, they have not.
They have 2, Sharon.
Wait, excuse me.
Okay, now, listen.
Hold on.
There's $52,800 in the contract, and based upon your previous discussion, you should spend that on a principal for Pro Roads. I feel badly as a town official that we are not, Bernardston is entitled to have a full-time principal. And you're gonna take him away, at least 1 day a week. And I think it should have been made something like Warwick .6, Leiden .4, something like that, rather than to take Bob Clancy and give him some more money. By the way, what was the negotiated price
What, for?
for Bob to take that position?
And for Renee.
Bob is doing it for $10,000 in addition to his regular day. I know in the past there had been somebody that went from Warwick to Pearl Roads, which was ridiculous because it was just so
Right,
far
but
away.
you can do 3 in 2 days, 3 days in 2 days, but it
Right.
has to be some other arrangement. If you think this is fair, I guarantee next year we're gonna come in here and say, this was a wonderful situation, it worked out perfectly. Well, as a town official, I wanna see my principal in my town, and if it works out great, let's have Northfield go to Leiden next year. Same situation and bring Bernardston's back. Because I'm
Okay.
not happy with the move. He needs to
No.
be in Bernardston.
Sharon?
I had a call from the Leiden Select Board this evening saying that we need to restore that position in Leiden as it was when Deanna left, and that the line item budget should stay the same. They were concerned. So they're probably gonna call you, but they wanted to be sure that I brought it up at the meeting. And as far as the Heart Committee, can somebody here address the fact that have you discussed closing Leiden School within the Heart Committee?
We are not specifically, let me be absolutely clear. We are not focused on closing that school. We are focused on every possible scenario for this district. Yes, that's something that's been brought up, and I will say minimally in those meetings. Will we ask the researchers to look into what will it cost to bring the kids to Leiden to the other schools in the district? Yes, we'll look at that. We'll look at hopefully what it will cost the town of Leiden to maintain that building. The building is not gonna go away. We won't let it just rot away. So there's a lot of things to look at. Will we look at them? Yes, we probably will. But the Heart Committee is not focused on closing Pearl Road School.
Thank you.
And can I just be clear, because I know there was conversation there, but that wasn't, it's been conversation in the town of Leiden. And maybe Deanna wasn't feeling, but she was feeling nervous that the school would close while she was there, and she has a family, and she felt like she needed to go find another job. So it's very short notice that we got. I mean, we have opening of schools in next week, that that decision for Bob to do that at this time. I will absolutely go up and talk to the select board in Leiden because I think it's important, but this all just came down in the last few days, just to be clear.
I think it's a very unfair and inaccurate assumption that you are making that Pearl Road is going to close. There's been no discussion about it being, about it closing. There's been discussions about looking at feasibilities of the schools, the costs and so on, and what's the best formula for budget purposes as well as the quality of student education. But to assume that it's going to close in the next year, or 2 years, or 3 years, is a radical mistake. It was a poor assumption.
Yes, Jennifer.
I was told, Ruth, that you were asked what the, how long you thought Leiden would be open, and by Dina, and you said, oh, probably, I don't know, it doesn't look too good. So she said, oh, well, I'll resign then.
Who said that? Deanna did not say that. I have a written statement.
I never said who said it.
Okay.
I said it's been said.
But my point is, Deanna had an exit interview. She wrote down how all sorts of feelings about things which are relevant at this time. It's just we need to make sure that, we're going to give somebody a 1-year position, a 2-year position. I think meeting with the selectmen will probably clear this up a bit.
Yes, Deb.
So I just want to make sure that, I was at the first 3 or 4 meetings when the Heart started to formulate and started to get underway. So I know what I heard, and there was, without a doubt, talk about closing the school. And I can point my finger at 2 specific individuals from Leiden who were right on the bandwagon about it. And I can also state that there was somebody from Bernardston who verbalized that as well. So I just want to make sure that people understand this wasn't an assumption on Ruth's part. I was present in the room.
Yes, Rick.
I haven't missed a single meeting at the Heart Committee. Every single one or 2 people brought it up. There was no broad discussion, no decisions whatsoever made about it. It was all said, we can't make a decision until we have all the facts. And all the facts, they will be coming over the course of the next year probably. And then it involves the full discussion of all 4 towns and voting and changes to the district agreement to make that happen. All 4 towns have to approve on that. There was nothing concrete said that Leiden, that Pearl Road Elementary School was going to close at any of those meetings.
Did you have something?
I just want to say, sure, it's come up in meetings. Select board members have brought it up from different towns. I'm not going to say that it's not out in the air there somewhere. Of course it is. But that is absolutely true. On the other hand, the Heart Committee is not focused on closing a school. There's no doubt on what that means. We have no information on it to even know that that's even a road that we should go down. So I just want to clarify that. It's not that, of course, it's never come up. Because of course it's come up. Everybody in the town is talking about it. But is the Heart Committee focused on it? Is that what we're doing? No, that's not what we're doing. We're looking at, hopefully, we'll be looking at many, many possibilities and ideas and things that happen.
I understand that you're looking at possibilities and different things now that you're into a focus group. I get that. But I just want to make sure that this group of people in this room understand that it was not an assumption made. It was verbally stated. I was in the room. I know what I heard. And when you plant a seed, you plant a seed, period.
Okay. Chris?
I don't want to belabor this discussion, but years ago, when I was principal at Pearl Roads, there was a committee that was formed in town with a specific purpose to look at the liability of the school. Studies were done, and it came to the conclusion that it wasn't financially going to save a lot of money at that time to close the school down. So, I mean, there is a history of it being out and discussed, and it's always discussed. And I even remember Kevin talking about it. If that school ever drops below 50, which it is, then, maybe, we should, so it's just, it has been out, talked about.
I think we've discussed this issue enough. Let's move on.
Okay.
So Central Office contact list when out of office.
That's just, it's in their packet.
That's good, because at one point I couldn't get a hold of anybody and I panicked.
Me too.
Ruth was on vacation and Gail had taken the day off and I didn't realize that. And I was trying to, and nobody could answer the phone and I panicked and I didn't know what to do and I just asked for that list, so thank you.
Oh, it's a good one.
School lunch report prices, you had something to speak on that?
She did.
Oh, sorry about that, yeah.
2 weeks ago, Holly Nansen, the elementary cafeteria manager, went to a John Stalker Institute information session, which the state holds in regards to school lunch pricing, and came back to me with the information verbally that we needed to have school lunch prices be $2.86, and I had recommended to you $2.85. And this is something that the state is mandating. I called Greenfield, I called my colleagues, some of them were on vacation, and then emails to me on August 14th, but dated August 9th was the email that the last sentence states, for school year 17-18, the weighted average price of meals must be equal or greater to $2.86. So I would ask that you revote your $2.85 to $2.86. And just talking a year ahead of time, and again, this is in writing, I am following up with this. There really is no need to do it right now. But the recommendation for next year is the lowest price must be $2.92.
Wow. Okay, I guess we gotta do what we gotta do.
Yes,
so, is there a motion to such? Yes, Ginny.
I make a motion that we increase the lunch price from $2.85 a meal to $2.86 a meal, beginning for fiscal 18.
And just to be specific, that's at the elementary level.
Oh, I'm
Bring the chart with me, but the lowest price that we charge has to be $286. So
I'm
you already
still confused.
voted for the price in a comparable way to Pioneer, so that can stay the same. So this just needs to be raised 1 penny.
I amend mine to
Thank you.
To say what she
reflect
said,
what
right?
Gail said.
Okay.
Elementary school lunch prices.
And there was a second or not?
Second.
There was a second. Okay. Any discussion? All those in
Yeah,
favor?
I have a
Yeah.
question.
Sure.
What is weighted average price?
Gail?
I don't know the total explanation, but when I talked to Kevin Dawson, who is my connection for food service at the state level, he says it's all part of the formula that they create to allow them, or not to allow them, but to allow us to receive the reimbursement portion.
So in other words, what they want is the price to be $286, not the weighted daily price, but just the price.
Yes.
Because weighted daily is far different.
Right.
Okay, so
Thank you.
there's a motion and a second. All those in favor? All right, that's unanimous. That was for elementary only and the Pioneer.
They're all set?
Voted already.
Yes.
She's all set.
All right, staff changes.
You have the sheet.
Okay, has everyone had a chance to look through that sheet? There was,
She shrunk it onto one. It's a
Oh, good. Lunch report? Or is there yet money to come?
It says, June 17th.
Is this the final, or is there the, or?
No.
Okay.
I think there's another one.
This is the summer, the end of the summer one, and then
Too many
you
people.
can calculate last year.
Sorry.
All right.
I know.
So, any questions on staff changes, or,
Lunch report, we're all set.
yes, Jim?
I just wanted to comment that I'm heartsick over the good people that we've lost.
I've had 13 resignations this year. It's pretty profound.
How many teaching staff did we have at the end of last year, district-wide? Do you know?
Oh, I don't know that figure off the top of my head. What did she give me? She gave me something.
Sometimes that puts it more in perspective. Because we've seen a lot of people leave at the Pioneer level, but not too many at the elementary level, am I correct?
Yeah, we have had some people leave, but not many. And we've had to increase, most recently in Northfield, we had to add another teacher because all of a sudden these people decided to move into Northfield. And
Good choice.
well, and I think some of it came from the college, and they have like
Oh,
3
yeah.
kids.
Right.
Megan, if she's still here, or is she?
Yeah, we have over 20 new.
Okay,
Good.
that-
Over 20. I
Cool.
don't know the exact total today because the phone keeps ringing. It's really great news for the district when we talk about declining enrollment. We have increasing enrollment.
Right.
But a lot of that came in August. So we've been kind of scrambling to right the ship and get the classes balanced as they should be and staff accordingly and lots of last minute changes, but it will be for the best.
Is that gonna make a difference with class sizes and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff?
so we did have to do some splitting. Letters are in the mail to families informing them of those changes.
Okay,
The families that it affects. I would also anticipate, I wouldn't have in December when we were doing this budget, but going forward, I would anticipate possibly some further increase next year as the college draws more families. Actually, Cheryl, our PTO co-chairs, are already on the hunt for might be some of those families, and I'm hoping to, at some point, when the dust settles from the fall, make a connection with the college and see if we can kind of get a little bit of data in December when we start looking at our budget, so that we can have at least a better sense. This was not expected at all.
Are we gonna have to meld 2 grades together, or do we have separate things, or?
No, no. We've done some splitting of classes.
Okay.
But,
Great. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
For another teacher.
yes, and that teacher's been hired. I don't think she's on here yet because she's got to sign her paperwork and whatnot.
So you have enough staff?
We do.
Right.
Barely.
Barely, and we have to look at that for next year for sure.
Okay, super. Nice. Good. I'm glad they like Northfield, so do I.
Yeah, so that's what's happening at the elementary schools. They're
Okay.
not, they're increasing, not decreasing.
Is there any other comments people have other than the feeling of,
Feels like a
of
mass exodus.
excitement because we have school starting with some new exciting teachers probably? I was in on the band hiring and that was nice, and I understand that, that band camp went well.
Can I ask who the
And-
new band person is?
Why did
He
you
should be
ask
on
me?
here,
It's
Tim.
Burns.
Oh,
Ken
Tim
Burns.
Burns. Did he grow up in Greenfield?
Nope,
No.
he
Oh,
grew
really?
up in Maine.
Maine, I think, yeah.
Maine.
Southern Maine?
The
He
only
moved
comment
over
I had,
already.
and Ella, maybe you can
No,
go, is he talks very fast.
He does. It was great though. He had a lot of
Yes,
energy.
exactly.
Oh, you did, you
He
did like
was
him?
in Kansas, yeah, Monday and Tuesday. He was very positive. He knows what he's talking about. He's a composer as well as a conductor, which is awesome. That's new for us. He seems great. We're excited.
That's great,
good.
I
that's
mean,
great.
as I
And-
said in the interviews, that's sort of the face of Pioneer at some point. I mean, that's how the citizens see Pioneer. That's how the county does at the fair. It's important to have somebody,
Tim Burns.
Tim
Tim
Burns.
Burns.
I keep saying Ken
not
Burns,
on
but.
No, Ken Burns.
Well, he's
is-
here
He's
to
huge.
decide
Yeah.
the
So,
replacement for
so I was excited
interim
about that.
music.
So we had an orientation today at district-wide, and tomorrow they'll have an orientation in their schools. And it's a great group of new individuals, very excited, very talented. And I know there's been some concern about, whether we're gonna have enough staff. We are actually absolutely fully staffed for the coming year.
With current enrollment.
With current enrollment, yep. And IAs, all of it. I think we're hiring one more IA. Elizabeth was interviewing right before the meeting. So we are all set, ready to open. Parents don't have to worry. Every class is gonna have a teacher.
Sharon.
Have the parents had the appropriate notification and everything for first aid? The
Yes, yeah,
site
there's
prayers?
been lots of letters out, lots of
Okay.
information.
And there've been parent meetings?
Parent meeting?
What parent?
I don't know.
There was a parent forum last night.
Seventh
No, there
grade?
are. The parents are shaking their heads, so clearly there were parent meetings.
Oh, where's Jean? Is Jean here?
Yes.
Yeah, she's there.
Where are you?
She's there.
She's the parent.
bomb.
Well, I've had 2 parent meetings this week. One of our academic excellence parent group, which is just starting up. We have, I think, 10 parents volunteered for that. And then I had an open parent forum. We had about 20, 25 parents come, just to hear about the new school year and ask any questions they have.
Good, thank you.
No, it would be nice is if some of those, when we had meetings within the district that invited parents, most of us are parents, maybe we're not parents of school-age kids, but if we're on school committee, I would love to see if we could get those notices too, because I think often parents and school committee people sort of have the same feelings. We wouldn't be on here if we didn't want to hear about what's happening to the kids in the schools. So if the principals could also get that information to us. There's nothing that makes me happier than to hear either Megan or Elizabeth on the robocalls telling us what's going on. It just is a happy feeling to hear Elizabeth and her peppy voice telling us what's happening in Warwick. So even if we don't live in Warwick, it's nice to know what's going on, or any other elementary school. And the parents of what's happening at Pioneer, I think, is something that we all would enjoy knowing about sooner rather than later.
So have the kids started practicing sports? I saw kids
Yeah.
out
Yes.
there.
Yeah, so
They
those,
will these captains practice or coaches practice?
These are preseason. and I'm sorry, these
Yeah.
are preseason practices, so coaches are there.
Okay, so
yeah,
it's not
first day of
captain's
preseason.
practice.
Can we
No, it's not.
recruit you to be a committee member, please?
Gotta get her through school first.
Right.
Exactly.
She
Are there
is.
any
She-
subcommittee, oh, excuse me.
She could be a student council, she could be a student
We
representative.
still have.
She is.
She's not sitting, I'm not sitting.
She is, but she's not sitting up here.
Just given all the staff changes that we had, it was a really rough summer. Hearing the resignations roll in. The exit interview process is very important to me for the people that have left, and I'm just wondering when the new C&P committee is there a date being discussed? Because we need to finalize that process.
Is Robin still on the committee?
Robin,
Yeah, but she hasn't
Robin is
been
the
all
chair.
summer.
So I think we need to schedule without her then.
Yes, I
This
think
feels
so.
really
I-
inappropriate.
Yeah, I've been
pushing it
wanting
off.
to do that all summer and it just hasn't happened.
Well,
So
so
can we
let's
talk
make,
about a
let's.
date now?
Summer's very hard to schedule
Well, I
meetings.
left my family to be here tonight
I'm
and came
not-
back early.
Yeah, I'm not saying,
It's my
I'm
responsibility
not
to be
saying
here.
anything.
Let's give it one more
No,
meeting
I would
and
like
get
to
into.
schedule something. It feels
Are
really
you the chairman?
irresponsible.
Are you the chairman?
No, no,
I
I would
think-
like to.
Do you
There's a lot of
have
people
any
on, there's a
idea?
lot of people on the committee.
Can you raise your hand if you want to speak?
I think that it would be nice to be able to pick a date sometime in September for a C&P meeting. And then we can check with people that are not here this evening and see if maybe set a couple dates and see which ones would work for people that are on C&P. Deb?
Are you two the only people in charge of this committee? You're the only members on this board?
No, you too.
Well, obviously you only think that you two are the only important people in this
I
committee.
think this is enough back and forth. Let's set a couple dates and see what would work for people. Is there any special evening that works for somebody better?
What did we do before?
Deb, are you on CMP?
I am on CMP.
Okay, is there any night that you can't come?
Just tell me when it is and then I'll have to look at the schedule. Most often my nights are available.
Okay.
Pat,
You're not-
Wednesdays don't work for me.
Wednesdays don't for you. Okay. Sue?
I'm pretty open at this point.
Okay. Sharon?
Yeah, I'm pretty open.
Okay. Who else is on CMP? I don't have it right.
You
in
said
front of me.
Robin?
Robin.
Robin's on CMP.
John, are you on CMP?
Yeah.
No, you are?
Yeah,
Is any night
better.
better than another?
Thursdays, pretty good.
Thursday's pretty good. All right, so I'm looking over.
Wednesdays,
No.
How does September 7th sound for one possible date? No?
That's the opening night of the fair, I don't know. Granted, that should not be
No.
part of it, but you don't know if people are
That's
gonna.
right, because we'll be watching the kids march.
What would you be doing, though?
We'll be watching our kids march. So let's go to the
September
14th.
7th, I cannot make it.
14th, how's that look?
PVRS open house.
That's good. We can have our meeting and then we can go to the open house, because if
What
we
time?
haven't been here, open house is what, 6 to 8? 6:30? So what time would be an okay time to have a meeting?
I like 6.
Would that give us time enough to go to open house afterwards?
Maybe 5:30.
All right, let's do 5:30.
Oh, but I'm sure that's
Robin's
impossible
gonna
for
have-
Robin's not
Robin
gonna be able
can't
to make it.
at that early.
All right, so we
6
keep
o'clock?
running into, okay, let's not do
We've
Thursdays.
done them at that time before.
Yeah,
We have.
6 o'clock, yeah.
All right, let's do 6 o'clock. And then let's do another day that is not on a Thursday.
Right, so
Okay.
what was that
Let's
one
do
we
the
just
12th.
scheduled at 6? Was it the 10th?
14th for potential.
14th?
6th.
The 6th.
Okay, so then do we want to get a date that's earlier in the month and see what will happen with that?
Excuse me. Are you going to consult with the chair of that committee?
That's why we want a couple dates to run them by Robin. That's the deal. So let's see about what's happening earlier in the month. What's happening, Okay, how about the 12th, which is on a Tuesday? And let's not have it quite so early. Let's have it like 7, because that might be easier for Robin. She has a couple munchkins. And then let's see which of those 2 dates would work better for.
What was the second, not the 12th, what was the other one?
The 12th and the 14th. The 14th would be at 6. That's the same night as an open house. And on the 12th, it would be at 7. And Robin is the only person that is not here from CMP. And so we'll run it by her, see what's going on. And I think it's really important to have a meeting, and we can just keep our fingers crossed that Robin is available, and if not, if she'll give us her okay to go ahead and have a meeting. I think that's our responsibility. Other business is our open house dates. And thank you,
Before
Jane.
we move on from subcommittee stuff, can
Oh,
I just
yeah.
ask, what happened to the posting of the CMP meeting that we were supposed to have on the 26th?
I have no idea. I'm not in charge of that committee. I have no idea. That's a Pam question, but I don't think anybody got in touch with Pam.
Yeah, I did. I sent a letter to Pam, and it didn't happen. Yes,
So
Jane?
isn't it your job, Ruth, to make sure the meeting gets posted?
No, my admin assistant is the one that posts them, and she usually will, she refers to the chairs. Typically, the chair of the committee is the one that posts them, or requests it.
Works with Pam.
Right, with Pam, yeah.
We have
And
been.
Robin wasn't at that meeting. Pat chaired it. And Pat wrote to Pam and said post it for the 26th.
We have been requested by our attorney that any posting go to him and he can post it so that we don't get ourselves in a mess of not having it posted or any meeting posted on time.
That would
So I
feel
think it
really
would
good
be
to me.
doubly
That's a good idea.
So moving, Bill, do you have anything on policy? Okay. And we've discussed budget. So that leaves us to, under other business, we were going to talk about the good and welfare. Do we have any concerns or good points to talk about? Yes.
Under other business, I put completed maintenance projects,
Oh,
so
good.
you know, I sent this out to you with your packet. Tim Randall and I created this list, and I'm not going to go over it item by item because you can certainly read it, but I just want you to know that the custodians worked endlessly this summer and did a fantastic job. I know some of you came into the building for meetings that we usually don't have in the summer, and we're worried about how the building looks, but they have such a great schedule here, and they do it by section of the building purposely, and they back themselves out and do the lobby last. And the last couple of days, they've done the lobby, and we've had quite the maze of signs that they put up to have us travel in different places so we don't step on the floor. All of the capital projects that the towns voted for at town meetings have been completed as of Tuesday. And all the, the ongoing maintenance projects that have come up in the past, I tried to remember to put them all on the list. I remember I forgot the septic pumping 1 year verse, and even though it happened, I forgot to put it on the list. But they've all happened. Every building is in great shape facility-wise and ready to go. It all looks great.
That always looks great. They do a fantastic job. Yes, Judy?
I just wanted to share with everyone that I was at a Massachusetts school nurse conference in earlier this month, and every district that I talked with nurses from had found decrease in enrollment in their districts. So this is happening statewide, and I just wanted to share that little bit of information.
I think there was an article in the paper today too about that. I think that it's the nature of where we live and what's
also,
happening.
I think there's more kids looking at TAP.
Yeah, I think you're right.
That also came out from the school nurses.
So I had a couple things. Number one, thank you for doing these board notes. They've been absent for a long time.
Yeah, I know.
I truly, truly, truly appreciate that. I think that helps us, so we know what we're doing. And so, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Much appreciated. We had spoken earlier about changing the wording of citizens' concerns to citizens' comments, because they don't necessarily have to be concerns, they can be comments.
Right, right.
And so, in doing that, I would wonder if we could change good and welfare to committee comments. Because good and welfare to me are just two words that are put together that really don't go together. Am I dense, or is that something that was pulled out of
all.
So what do you want them to be?
I just wondered if one could be citizens' comments and then committee comments. To me, that just makes sense.
That does make sense.
I can understand Dave, I think David has more of a
Good.
administrative lean on
Yeah.
things than our committee does. And to me, it just doesn't make
So
sense.
do you want, do you want one at the top and one at the bottom?
Yes, that would be
Okay,
awesome.
citizens and
At the
top.
beginning, yep.
Okay,
And
and
then
this at the bottom.
And then the other thing is, could we send a thank you note? I know she was paid for it, but for Deanna, who did the band camp leadership.
Yeah.
I mean, she was at the end of her employment, and she had the enthusiasm
She
and
did.
did a great job of band camp, from what I understand. And I see a nodding head up here.
Yeah, the band students wrote a thank you note, we all sent a card, but
Oh,
that would
great.
be awesome. She was amazing.
Yeah.
She is
Super
amazing.
enthusiastic, it was great.
Yeah, and I think this year we just needed that continuity of somebody to
Yeah.
introduce the new band director, and she sort of pulled it together.
It really was one of the reasons why she left the age group. She
Yeah.
really does, it's gonna be a middle high school role, and she's gonna be able to have, you know, part of music. So it truly was the age group that wasn't a fit for her. She didn't leave. She really enjoyed the time at the district, and she did a marvelous job of pulling everything together for the preschool program too, that, you know, she handed over. But I mean, she didn't leave us in the lurch, which was really nice.
Can I make a motion that we adjourn?
I would love to
Second.
have that.
Excellent.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Second.
Great.